Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another week, another After Dark, and here we are. My name is Aaron Knoll. I'm your host for tonight, and we are here for another TMG After Dark.
Guys, did we lose him?
Oh, okay.
I thought it was my
my
internet for a second.
Oh,
Maddie, you're tapped in.
What's going on, everybody? As I try to make a thumbnail real quick, welcome to the show. I am Matt. I'm not your host. I think Aaron is the host. I saw his eyes blink. Let's go back to him.
How long have we been in the pre-room, and that was the first time my internet decided to fuck up?
Yeah,
that is After Dark, ladies and gentlemen. That is the definition of After Dark. Yeah, you guys know me. Let's go back to Rex and Arandor. What's up, man?
Oh, nothing much. Just making thumbnails. As Bruce says, it's about to go down. We got a lot to talk about. Some predictions some people have said end up being correct. Mine. We'll get into that later. Super Bowl is tomorrow. My team is not in it, but guess what? I got season tickets, and I'm upgrading my seats for a club. And yes, still Rex or Andor, get Michael into Andor.
I don't have stakes in the Super Bowl, but I do have stakes in my state becoming a super spreader event thanks to it. Let's go ahead and head over to the lone Mandalorian for the moment. Nikki is with us.
Yeah, I don't know where Devin is. I think he's playing Elite Dangerous on his computer and got distracted of what time it was. That's probably most likely. He has a computer that can handle that capacity. I was going to do one of those shirtless Henry Cavill builds, but then I realized if I did that, I probably wouldn't have gotten to put the computer together because it takes more work setting up this camera setup than it does putting an actual computer together. Stay tuned for that build video, though. Someday we might do it.
Exactly. Tonight he may take the helmet off. Eventually he will take his shirt off. That is the promise he has made. And for the moment, our final member on the panel, he's been joining us on and off over the last few weeks. We're happy to have him back. Grant is with us. How's it going, man?
yeah, it's going good. I'm happy to be here. I will definitely keep my shirt on. I don't have the body of Henry Cavill or the ability to believe that I do. Yeah, happy to talk about some stuff this week. Some TV show thing happened. Something about different universes. I can't quite remember. I'm sure it was no big deal.
Yeah, something aired this week. I don't really know if it's a big deal or not, but I guess we can talk about it. But before we do, we already have the comments showing up in the live chat, and Nikki kind of wanted to lead something on this. Obviously, a legendary actor this week, Christopher Plummer, most known for The Sound of Music. Of course, in more recent years, he is a two-time Oscar record holder. He is the oldest actor to ever win an Oscar for his 2010 film Beginners. And he is also the oldest nominee at 88 years of age for the Ridley Scott film All the Money in the World, in which he was also notably shot at the very last minute, replacing known pedophile Kevin Spacey. He was 91 years of age when he passed. From what we know now, it was just due to natural causes. Obviously, more information could come out later. But before we go to Nikki, on behalf of TMG, as with all actors that have passed, we've mentioned we give the best to his family. We do know he was with his wife when he passed, and it is an unfortunate loss because even at the elder age of 91, he was still such a strong talent whenever he showed up. Most recently last year and 2 years ago now, almost, in Knives Out. He's a brilliant actor. But Nikki, go ahead. He has a special connection to your heart.
No, yeah, I mean, Sound of Music, my dad still refers to Sound of Music as my favorite movie because I would never stop watching it growing up. I really loved that movie for some reason. But not just that, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. If you want to see a Klingon general face off against Kirk while reading Shakespeare to him during a battle where both Kirk captaining the Enterprise and Sulu captaining the Excelsior both get to say fire at the same time. It's a brilliant movie, brilliant performance by Christopher Plummer. Minority Report's another one that comes to mind of his that he was great in. But wait, no, that wasn't him. That was Max von Sydow. That's terrible.
Wow, Nikki.
He's dead too. He died too. No, but anyway, I wanted to lead us in a Klingon death cry that we need to allow the halls of Stovacor to know that a Klingon warrior has died.
Where's my blood wine?
Yeah, you got some blood wine or some prune juice? I got some prune juice over there. But yeah, so yeah, we just kind of howl like on a count of 3. So just 1, 2, 3, and then howl up at the sky. 1, 2, 3. Ah!
I don't know.
Wrong.
That was a
God. Oh, wrong one.
wrong one. That was a heartfelt tribute from Nikki and a half-assed attempt from the rest of us. But again, to Christopher Plummer and his family, we wish him the absolute best. For anyone who hasn't seen, if you want to check out some of his better work over the last few years, some of the films he was in include Up, the animated film 9, obviously his winning role for Beginners, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and more recently he was in really good or underrated films like Danny Collins. He was also in All the Money in the World. He was in Knives Out. And his last live-action performance was in a 2020 release called The Last Full Measure. And he has one more posthumous film remaining, an animated voice film in an upcoming film called Heroes of the Golden Masks. So with that, Christopher Plummer, rest in peace. May the other Klingon cries that go out be better than this one.
May the halls of Stovacor sing songs of your name.
Yes. Said better from someone who's actually seen the Star Trek films. And so with that, we transition from that into another thing that is nerd related. We're going to go ahead and spend a little bit of time, and I do not have videos prepped tonight, so I'm just going to live read it. We are going to be getting into a WandaVision spoiler discussion. Now, there were a couple little news tidbits I'm going to briefly talk about before we get into it that just happen to relate to the show and some of its recent episodes. Now, that is the first thing. This is going to be spoiler. We're at the halfway point of the show. 5 episodes have aired. We're going to be talking about everything that's happened, anything that wants to come up for the duration of this. The spoiler banner will stay up while we're talking, just in case you guys tune in, or if you want an awareness to know when to tune back in if you don't want to be spoiled. But we will be talking spoilers for the time being. Getting into those quick stories that came out this week, writer and creator of the show, Jock Schaefer, was being interviewed by Cinema Blend this week, in which she talked about the nature of the show's format and specifically talked about episode 4. In it, Schaefer said that the show is pretty much executed how she originally pitched it to Kevin Feige, saying that she wanted to use the show formula to create a slow burn style story. She likes the idea of exploring different lead characters separately at different times and allowing them to play catch up to what the audience knows, while also exposing the audience to new information. She also asked fans to be patient with the show, saying that the conclusion will be worth the slow burn that we started with. She also compared WandaVision to her other upcoming Marvel project, and for those who didn't know, Jock Schaefer was also lead writer on Black Widow. While she stated she enjoyed working on both projects, she actually found Widow harder to write for than WandaVision, simply because she had to work within the confines of the real world and an MCU formula for it. Whereas with WandaVision, anything she pitched could basically be used. She could go to the wits of her mind to come up with ideas, and most of it was pretty much allowed. We also got insight into 2 of the characters that were introduced in episode 4 in Jimmy Woo and Darcy Lewis, with actors Randall Park and Kat Dennings doing press interview this week for the show. Both of them stated that while it will not be addressed on screen, both of their respective characters in Woo and Lewis did survive the blip and were alive in the middling 5-year period between Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame,
We learned that magic trick.
expanding their advancements within their respective field. And Randall Park specifically said, allowing Woo to learn the magic trick. Thanks for cutting me off. So obviously just little bits of character information there we learned. But let's go ahead and get into it. We are halfway through WandaVision now. Obviously, the show is setting itself up to really start expanding and explaining more going forward. So what are you guys' thoughts on it thus far? We'll go around the horn. So I'll start with Matt first.
Okay, so update. Just got the thumbnail added. Woohoo! We got a thumbnail on the show. I added the WandaVision thing. So there's that. That's why I've been clicking all the time. Really like the episode. Really love the ending. We are now in spoilers, so I think it was 8 months ago. I said because of the rumor that came out about Evan Peters being in WandaVision, but as a mysterious role, I said he would be in the show as Quicksilver. He's got the silver hair. He has the same mannerisms that he did in the Fox movies. So, I mean, I get why people think maybe it's not, but for those who don't think it is the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe, I got 3 words for you. Multiverse of Madness. This is connecting to Doctor Strange 2. It's setting up Doctor Strange 2 as a Spider-Man, and I believe it might also be leading into Spider-Man 3, whatever it's called. There's a title. Tom Holland wants it out. Let's put it out, guys. So we don't have to say Spider-Man 3, because I don't really want to say Spider-Man 3 in a positive light. But I am very, very I think you're muted, Aaron.
Yeah, I muted myself so you wouldn't hear the typing. You could just use the fill-in I've been using, which is Spider-Man Home.
Homebound. Yeah, that could be that. But I think just because of how it's connecting, this is obviously the same Quicksilver from the Fox universe. They got Fox now. Might as well do it. Everybody loved that Quicksilver. He's in it. He'll be in the show, and then probably in Doctor Strange 2, and that's about it. But to kind of talk about the rest of the show, because there was an entire show, what did you guys think about the whole dog thing? Do you think the dog really died because it ate plants?
Oh my God!
She killed the dog.
I'm so glad the dog died. Because that thing was a demon spawn from hell, and that dog deserved to die. I'm not sorry about it. I'm so glad the dog died.
You're a monster.
No, I'm not a monster.
You're
that dog.
A monster. You wanted a dog dead.
That dog was a monster.
Look, I don't care if a little puppy kills my family or not. I'm still gonna love it because it's a puppy.
Back to where it belongs.
No, it's a little doggo. It probably wasn't real because she probably just made it so it can fit her whole fantasy of we got a family and now there's a dog. So it's not.
To be fair, and this is just to make everyone happy about dog death wars. They did establish that anything she creates in the world can become reality. So in theory, that is a dead dog.
Thank you for putting that in my head. Now I'm sad, but no.
Go ahead, Grant. Sorry,
she killed the dog.
Dogs from hell.
Well, okay, the name Sparky is the name of a robot dog that they actually had within the comics. It wasn't established whether that was a biological dog, but I don't believe that Wanda created it. I believe that that Agnes did that to try and force the children to grow up, because they're going the same route from what I've seen as they've done with Vision Quest and Avengers Disassembled. So within that storyline, she needs the children to be sacrificed. She needs the ones she loves to be the ones that Wanda loves to be sacrificed to take her power, to make herself corporeal, essentially. And same with Mephisto, and that's why I think that the audio description. I don't know if you ever watch any of the stuff with audio description. When Quicksilver came in, it said Pietro as he appears in the Fox X-Men universe. That's how the audio description.
I had a theory for what that was.
So it didn't say it was him; it just said as he appeared. Yeah. I still think he's Mephisto, because they said he's in a mysterious role. Mephisto the Mysterious was a name that was used for Mephisto in the comics as well. And I think if they're going to go Mephisto as a main bad guy, you can have Wanda as the bad guy in the next film, but have her being somewhat controlled or at least manipulated by that. And also, I don't know if you realize, there's been a lot of little Easter eggs of hidden stuff, like the Grim Reaper's staff and different things that are around there, who also has the ability to bring people back to life. So I think with what's going on with that, I think her reactions to certain stuff, she has control of things within the world, but she's not the one who created it or controls everything. She's still under the same sort of spell that everyone else is. She's just powerful enough to be able to break at certain times. Like you saw it with when they mentioned about Pietro, when you can see her like, wait, what? She breaks away from it, and then so I think I like where they're going. I think the fact of the matter is that they're not bound by the cookie cutter MCU stuff. it's so refreshing. It's so good, and thank God they didn't put this all out at once, because that would have been ruined in the first hour that someone saw it. They've done it the right way, but week for week, and I think this is. I'm waiting for them to break my heart, because Disney always has a habit of doing that. But I'm really enjoying it, and I think they're going in the right direction.
Now,
I just want to call out. I pulled it up, but Troy is correct. Azaleas they used a real poisonous plant, so it's not just the flower killed it. And then there's fact there.
So I mean, I think, I still think she killed the dog. I think she probably used the plant as an excuse, because it does make sense, because it is a poisonous plant. But she killed it. She definitely killed it off.
Yeah,
but
just lucky John was not a part of this universe, otherwise people would be already dead.
True. I like the dog. Couldn't it have been ugly, like an ugly dog, so everyone feels bad? But
it was ugly on the inside because its insides were from hell.
No.
Yes, it was.
No. Don't say that.
Agrees with me.
Don't say that. Yeah. No, it doesn't. They're laughing. That's not good. Anyway,
laugh track.
I have a laugh track.
It's a dog. I don't care. Demon dog or not a demon dog, I don't care. Still love it. But so I do also want to get to the office scene or whatever, when he gets the email and they're all reading it. That was great. Like, just how eerie and creepy that was. That was awesome. And of course, Vision, now we know he can bring people out of they can kind of snap them back to normal. That was really cool.
That guy's reaction, he didn't say that it was one. He said she.
Yeah, he said she. He used pronouns instead of saying she. So that still makes me.
Yeah. But I do have some. She jazzercised it to death. That's a great comment, Troy. That's a good one. But yeah, one of the things that I really think about the whole entire Pietro thing, I think you hit the hammer on the head. I think it's a Mephisto thing where this is like a stunt casting, and like this isn't actually Pietro. That it's just a citizen of Westview. Or we're supposed to think that it's a citizen of Westview that's been cast as Pietro, but it's actually Mephisto. So I think it's technically both are right. He's going to be Pietro for the rest of the season, but I think it's going to be revealed, like in the last episode or the second to last episode, that Pietro was Mephisto, and that's why Wanda could not foresee him appearing. And it's just a coincidence that the person on the typewriter that's doing the audio dialogue, I think that person just sadly misinterpreted their job description and didn't just type what they were supposed to see. And we're like, hey, I'm going to add my own little spice to this. Look, it's Quicksilver from the X-Men universe.
No,
I think
as he appears. It didn't say it was that version. It says Quicksilver as he appears in the
to be
X-Men
fair,
universe.
he never appeared like that in the X-Men universe. Here he looks and sounds like an addition to the Jersey Shore cast. But
he didn't have the silver leather jacket. He had more of a Fonzie leather jacket, and it wasn't exactly as he appeared in the X-Men universe, because it was more of a fluffy. He had a lot more.
Couldn't he be like 80 by now with their timeline?
Yeah, but
he's from a different universe.
30 for them at the rate they age. I mean, if you
Wanda was born in 1989, like what?
If you follow that timeline of films, they got 30 years of life in which they looked fucking immaculate, and then something happened in the mid 90s where like they all got hit with cancer or something, and it ruined them. Years.
It's like
the dot-com boom. That's what it was.
So, since I want to stay away from the multiverse stuff because that raises my blood pressure, let's go ahead and. So this is an interesting point. If anybody has any other thoughts in it, which by the way, hello Devin, welcome to the show. Rambo brain scan is being blank is a big eye opener.
I don't think it's her.
I don't.
No, it wasn't blank. It was overexposed.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think
blinding light.
I don't think the odd brain scan. I mean, I think it's definitely hinting to something. I don't think it's a big eye opener because I don't know what it's hinting to. At least for me.
So Photon was her mother's call sign in the MCU, but in the comic books, it's one of her names as a superhero. And they do say something about photons in the episode. So I think they are foreshadowing to the anomaly.
She's also been Miss Marvel, and she's also been Spectrum.
Spectrum was another one, yes.
Yeah. I don't want her to take over as Miss Marvel.
Could they do?
Miss Marvel, we're getting Kamala Khan for Miss Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
No, but they are calling her Captain, which is interesting.
So I was gonna say, do you guys think this could be a case of kind of like with Ant-Man, where they took different pieces of the Ant-Man persona or character and turned it into different things, kind of like how one of Ant-Man's things was Goliath, and obviously like Lawrence Fishburne never put on a costume, but that section of a character was turned into something else completely in the film. Do you think they could do that with like a Photon type thing? Maybe they turn her into a completely separate hero.
I think it's heavier. I think they're like leaning really heavy into it, like because I think this actress has like a multi-picture deal. They are like setting up Photon.
Everyone has a multi-picture deal.
Beyond, but like we're gonna see her.
Civil War 2 is where it's going to end. It's going to have Captain Marvel on one side and her on the other side. That's how it's going to go down, because Captain Marvel's going to be running the Avengers and she's going to be running the Sword Initiative with the other people.
Be Fantastic Four too.
That's what I mean. It could easily be a part of that.
Fury.
The next generation, as I said, they're going to focus more heavily on the female characters, so it's the new MCU essentially. So I think that's quite a possibility. But that's the route that they're going.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, again, this is starting to reach a character level that I'm not aware about. So kind of like with the multiverse thing, I don't vehemently hate this as much as I hate the sound of the multiverse.
But Monica from the movie Captain Marvel. So there's some it's a good thing that they introduced her as a little girl, and then like you see her again in this movie, because it's not a character we've seen a lot of, but it's like with Jimmy Woo and Darcy, like we have a past connection to them. So it's not like we're starting with a fresh face. It's a fresh actor playing her. But
but I mean, that's not even Jimmy Woo. That's not even close to Jimmy Woo in the comics.
Oh no, Jimmy Woo's fun.
Yeah,
I love Jimmy Woo.
Oh yeah. I mean, I like the actor and I like the character. It's just not Jimmy Woo.
Yeah.
It's Jimmy Woo.
And this is all. And this this tells you like where the MCU is, like what level it's operating on. Like I said, in terms of predicting the future with that character, I don't know what they have planned. Like for example, I don't think like when they signed Kat Dennings 10 years ago, they were like, yes, we're going to use you twice here, and then we're just going to bring you back in for this. Like, I don't think they thought that far ahead.
Oh, no, they brought her back by convenience. It was a great idea too.
Randall Park said, I remember this in an interview, and it was just a quick line he said when he signed, he was like, obviously, I signed the same multi-picture deal that everybody down to, but he said, and the difference is like, so Aaron Taylor Johnson, right? There was an interview I found while doing research for the stories this week where Aaron Taylor Johnson said after Age of Ultron came out, where he goes, he's like, Marvel signed me to a multi-picture deal in case they ever wanted to use me again. But in the discussion prior to the film, like we talked about the basically the contract legalities that were established between Fox and Disney. So he's like, I signed a multi-picture deal going in knowing I was getting killed after one film.
Yeah.
So he's like, I honestly don't care.
Options. So it's like when you sign like a baseball player.
Right. But whereas when they signed Jimmy Woo, Randall Park said, no, like they signed me and we had discussions about other projects I will be in past. And so that tells you at least as far back as 2017 when they were signing these deals, they knew this was something that could happen and they knew where Woo would have a role in.
Yeah.
So sometimes,
I've heard them brand him as the new Coulson. Like a lot of people are saying that, both inside Marvel and outside.
I like him more in this show more than I liked him in Ant-Man, and I liked him in Ant-Man. But my problem with him in Ant-Man was by nature of his role in the film, he wasn't an antagonist, but he had to be a foil to Scott. It made him look incredibly stupid for a character that was in the position he was in. Where
He was in a completely different film. That was the problem. He was in a '90s slapstick children's comedy. That's what it felt like.
that's
He's
the
sympathetic
comedic
and like sympathizing with Wanda in this. He
that's
has personality.
Right, that's the comedic relief side of things. Where I liked him, but he's a useless character that you could cut from that film. He doesn't need to be there. Whereas in this, kind of like what we were talking about before we went live with Kat Dennings, he serves a purpose in this.
Yeah.
Like this is the exact type of role that he would have done.
Yeah, I think they got Kat Dennings because Stellan Skarsgård is more expensive, and especially now with everything cutting everything down.
I think it's also an in-universe reason too. Jane Foster has cancer.
That's true.
So I think that's the in-universe reason for why Jane Foster didn't show up for this sword expedition was because Jane Foster has cancer, because that's the Mighty Thor comic line.
Also more expensive than either of them.
Yeah.
They only have her for one more movie on her contract.
Well, I mean, you know how much they had to pay for a bloody for Endgame. That was that was the most expensive cameo ever for her just to lie down.
What happened?
Wait, what?
Do you have these in pants? Wait, she asked, do you have pants? I think it was like
quoting the film
from TMZ or something. Like that they had to pay her still. But I don't think she actually paid anything for that.
Sorry, I just thought you were asking Devin if he's wearing pants. I'm like, dude, just look down. Don't have to ask.
I thought you were asking Grant.
Grant, do you have pants? We can't see.
I see half of that.
He has pants.
Hypothetically, we'll go with yes, just for now.
Here, Aaron, pants?
Yeah.
No.
You didn't seem sure about that. You were like, yeah, sure.
You can't see? Who gives a fuck? Anyways, so I'll go around one more time, just because we could spend all night on this if we wanted to, and I know it's gonna come up.
Do that.
Let's do it.
Pick apart every frame.
I know it's gonna come up on the show again as it continues to airs, and obviously they've already said that this is a show that's gonna tie into other pieces of the universe, so it's not going away anytime soon. So I'll go around one more time, just kind of without diving too deep into theory, just overall thoughts on the show thus far. I'll start with you, Grant. We'll go in reverse. I'll start with Grant.
It's going in the right direction. I think it was very clever that they didn't use the post-credit scene that they were going to use, but used it in this episode instead, with Wanda breaking into the facility to get Vision's body. That was originally going to be the end credit scene for Endgame. I think it was smart to take that out of that.
Yep.
And put it here. It's going good. It's Mephisto. Agnes has been around every time something to do with the children. The magic's been used in front of her. The opening scene when she's like, "You want me to take that again?" and it wasn't reset. We're under the assumption that Wanda resetting, where it could be someone else. We never know that Wanda is fully conscious when the time resets.
Right.
So it's just implied. So I think Wanda is. I think when Jimmy was first lines to us, like, Wanda, who's doing this to you, will hold true.
And I like it. I'll throw it in. We can run this briefly at the end as well, because it was asked in the comments. Who do you think the cameo they were referring to is? Do you think it's Evan? So just quickly, do you think it was Evan Peters or just character name? Who else do you think it could be?
Two names to get, because as it was quoted, it was going to be a Luke Skywalker moment.
That was with the
someone.
Yeah,
that's with the end of it. But I'm saying that's.
And I was going to say, we talked about the semantic of it, I think, before you got in here. As it should be noted, the interviewer phrased it as, will there be like a Mandalorian Luke Skywalker moment? And she just said, yeah, there would be something like that. So she didn't directly give that quote. I think that's being just a little misquoted in certain places as like, this is what she's pitching. But with that being said, sorry, go ahead.
Important, I think.
Two names will do that. Hugh Jackman, because he's a huge fan favorite, and the one that no one would ever expect, just even if it's just for a very, 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 very expensive cameo, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man.
All right, so then Nikki, same thing. Wrap up thoughts and just quickly throw out who you think that cameo is.
I think I was leaning more towards like Michael Fassbender or Benedict Cumberbatch for that cameo. I think that Grant's right on track with Mephisto. One thing, like just the feeling of this episode, this was the first time during this that I actually felt sad like where it actually like seemed sad. Like when Vision and Wanda were fighting, of like about Westview, and Vision's like screaming about he's scared, he doesn't know who he is. And Wanda's like, you're my husband, you're Billy and Tommy's father. Isn't that enough? It was just sad because it's like this isn't gonna end well, and it made me think how far gone is too far gone for Wanda. Like is she ever gonna come back from this? Or is she just going to become the Scarlet Witch forever and just be a continuing bad guy in the MCU? She could be the next Thanos, for all we know. I want to send it over for Devin, though, because he didn't get to say anything about WandaVision. What do you got?
Yeah, go ahead, Dev.
You like WandaVision?
Well, does anybody else remember the Hydra soap?
Hydra soap, yeah.
Mhm.
So it's like Colson, I
soap.
think, talked about it, like soap that can mess with people's minds or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blue soap. Yeah.
Is that it? That's your thoughts on the show?
Pretty
Blue
much.
soap.
Uh,
Blue soap.
the cameo, though, since everybody else said Magneto, what about Mystique?
What about Mystique?
Maybe.
Why would it be Mystique? But who is Mystique?
She's Evan Peters.
Jennifer Lawrence?
Who knows?
Like they're talking about like
Rebecca
and,
Romaine.
and I think they did say Rebecca Romaine, yeah, maybe. I think they did
No,
say
she is Vision.
yeah,
Yeah, she's
because
Vision.
could be Vision. Yeah, it's just mind blown, literally mind stone. But it's interesting though because I think the more important quote was the one that Bentley said was that there was an actor that he had always wanted to work with. I think actor implies male, like just the way that he was saying it.
Nikki.
Yeah, no, it would be, but it's more. It was more the context of it. It sounded like he was referring to, like I think he did say, "I always wanted to work with him." Like there's somebody that I always wanted to work with him. So I think that's the one that we need to take more into context, and it could just be Evan Peters. I think he wanted to work with Evan Peters.
All right, Matt, go ahead.
Okay, like the episode a lot, like where they're going with the show. I was right about Quicksilver from the Foxverse being in this
don't know yet.
show. Yes, it is. I was right about that,
We'll see.
and I love the commercials too, with how it relates
think they
to
represent
her,
the
with the toaster almost being like the bomb, the soap, being the mind controlling soap, and then the Lagos Howls. Love that a lot. And the cameo at the end of the show is either going to be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier, or Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Okay. And then to wrap it up, I really like what the show's doing thus far. I think it's heading in a really fun direction. I like that they are using the very traditional kind of film structure, but over the course of the show, where we got 3 episodes really setting it up, then we have 3 episodes that are kind of the rising action and the midpoint, and then we're going to get the fallout, which will be the final 3 episodes. Which is what I believe. I like how they're doing that structure. But yeah, I really like it. I really like the performances. I really like what they're doing with characters. As someone who really doubted some of the supporting cast they were bringing in, I thought it was really weird how the show was this eclectic mix of weird supporting characters from other pieces of the MCU. I like how they've integrated them, and I like how they're using them thus far. Again, as somebody who has said multiple times without knowing a lot about the comics, the multiverse is something I'm yet to be sold on. I'm going to be the Debbie Downer and say I actually think Quicksilver, Evan Peters was the cameo they're referring to. Because here's the thing, and I've noticed this with doing the news reports every week. Every single week, they're either doing a new piece of promo interviews or they're allowing more promo interviews that were pre-recorded to release. And a lot of the time, the promo they're doing coincides with the episodes that are happening. I don't think it's a coincidence that all these interviews dropped this week prior to this episode with a huge surprise cameo at the end. Surprise, because it did get leaked earlier. But
you mentioned those interviews, though. Why does it sound like they're recording those interviews in a toilet? Like, have you seen those interviews?
I don't think actors have professional recording equipment at their houses.
They were like in a booth. Like the two of them were in like the same. It looked like it was the same location that they stepped into and had the same exact. It looked and sounded like they were using the same thing to broadcast those interviews. But that's one thing that I have to get on people for. If you're going to be on, whether you're on a show like TMG After Dark or you're on a show like Rachel Maddow or CNN, have some professional pride. Buy a $50 webcam and a $20 microphone. I should not have a better remote setup than people who are being paid to do it. If their remote setup is that bad, that's not as much Wanda and Vision's fault, or Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany's fault. But like, if my sound setup is better than somebody who's being professionally paid to do these sort of things, the wrong person has that job at this point. Like, come on, guys.
Like, are you saying Aaron gets professionally paid? Oh man,
Aaron has a much better setup than most people that appear on CNN or MSNBC.
he has better things to say as well.
Because when they're talking on there, I notice too, especially when their sound's off, they'll go, "Yes, thank you very much for having me today. So I don't know exactly what we're talking about." And it sounds like they keep covering their mouth.
Just have some professional pride.
Yes.
Like, I could never do a job that I knew was bothering someone. Like that's like I would never be able to do a half-ass job at anything. But these people are going on and they have like multi-million-dollar consultants that are there to do PR. Consult them better. Like,
Yeah, but so with that being said, again, I was just trying to redirect back to what I was saying. You make a great point. I do think you make a great point there. Yeah, I think a lot of this promo material is very timed. And again, I do think, again, headline writing is a thing that happens. A lot of websites write for the headline. I do think the Luke Skywalker moment is being thrown out of proportion a little bit. I think they asked about, is something like this going to happen? And again, I think they were thinking about Evan Peters, because in theory, if the internet didn't exist and there wasn't a place where tons and tons of people could conglomerate and theorize and publicly acknowledge all these thoughts that are happening about what could happen, then Evan Peters just randomly showing up at the end of an episode, and he's going to have a role in this, because I don't know if anybody else noticed, he is, I believe, only the second actor to be credited as a lead actor in the show who was not previously announced as a lead actor.
yes.
The only other person
in the original credits, it wasn't sort of like in order of appearance or anything. I believe it was Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, the actress that plays Monica, and then yeah. So he was fourth billed in this episode.
Yes. And so, but what I was saying is, when the show was first announced, they announced a main cast that went with the show, where it was, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Tiana Paris, Randall Park, Kat Dennings. They announced a lead supporting cast, and Catherine Hahn. They announced a lead cast for the show.
Catherine Hahn. That's something we're all overlooking. She played Dr. Octopus in a Spider-Man movie a couple of years ago. And then she said a couple weeks later, she'd love to play that again. I don't think that's going to happen, but just that she said that, it's like, it just adds like a 1% chance that could happen, that we could see that at some point.
It's an absolute
So
there's a 1% chance it could happen. We need to take it as an absolute certainty, and we need to kill Catherine Hahn.
I did forget to throw this out when I was giving my final thoughts. I'll just throw it out real quick. Catherine Hahn is the one that created that world.
I love her.
But
or whatever.
Yeah. So I think that's it.
Actress Catherine Hahn.
In terms of doing on a full-on discussion, at least for plans for this show, certainly when it ends, I think we'll have to have a full-on discussion. And every week somehow.
Anything you want. Just call me in the middle of the night. I'll talk WandaVision with you.
Yeah, all it needs to be is a simple 7, maybe 9 hour stream, and we'll be sorted. Like,
nice. You're right.
We'll do it longer than the show.
Go longer. All right. Well, that's a nightmare.
An hour per episode.
WandaVision.
And my final.
That's the other thing. The coloring in at the beginning. It's a Family Ties reference.
family ties. Yeah.
She's coloring in his face because the last time we saw it, it was all gray. So she's coloring in his face. She's bringing the family to life, coloring it in.
And with that, we'll go ahead and move on. No, certainly this is a fun show, and I think it certainly, obviously, I know I come off as the downer a bit just because I hate the multiverse theory, but it's a lot of fun, and I think people have had this big thing about MCU fatigue for a while. Is it a thing? And I think the refreshingness of this show is something that is reinvigorating love and thought for it. So with that said, we'll go ahead and move on. We do have some other MCU news and discussion to get into this week, but I'm going to go ahead and break it up. We'll break it up a little bit, and we'll go ahead and get into our second set of topics, which involve this. So last week, we discussed the financial situation that happened in which people on Reddit raised the worth of companies like GameStop and AMC theaters, even enough to put some hedge funds out of business. That is a complete and oversimplification of what happened. Check out last week's episode for more in-depth details. Now, this week, we've learned we're getting some movies made about it. First, Deadline reported this week that MGM Studios had purchased the rights to Ben Mesrick's upcoming book, The Antisocial Network, which will focus on the situation. Mesrick, as an author, is most known for writing The Accidental Billionaires, the book on which Aaron Sorkin's and David Fincher's The Social Network was based on. Mesrick is writing the book actively since news about this first started breaking, and doing as much research as he can to get the book completed soon, while keeping a film adaptation of it in mind. Apparently, the film is going to be structurally based on Adam McKay's The Big Short in terms of trying to simplify explanations of stock markets to an average audience. Nothing else is known about the film outside of this information. Later in the week, Deadline reported again that Netflix was working on its own separate adaptation as well, that will be based on just simple public articles and information. The script will be written by Mark Bowl, the writer of films like The Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30, and he'll be assisted by Scott Galloway, a tech and business podcaster. Actor and Netflix favorite Noah Centineo is in talks to take the leading role in the film. Rumors state that the Netflix version will be specifically focusing on the GameStop scenario, while the MGM and Mesrick project will be focused on a more general overview of the event and all the companies that it affected. Moving on to some other small stories with developing projects, Edgar Wright confirmed that over quarantine in 2020, he wrote and finished his sequel to the 2017 film Baby Driver. Wright says he wants to make it as soon as it becomes feasible to, with it still being rumored that Ansel Elgort is on board to star. The actor had previously stated in 2019 that he had seen Wright's pitch of the film and he would be down to film it whenever Wright got the script together. Edgar Wright's next film, Last Night in Soho, is set to release on October 22nd, 2021. And finally, this week, THR reported that Eternals director Chloe Zhao is set to begin work on her next project, which is an original concept Dracula project. Zhao will write, produce, and direct the film, which will be centered on the classic Dracula story, but as interpreted through a modernistic sci-fi Western theme, with the themes of the film focusing on Dracula being on the fringes of society in the present of the film. The film is one of two Dracula projects that are in development at Universal after Blumhouse announced last year that they would be producing one in the vein of The Invisible Man, directed by Jennifer Body's director Karen Kusama. Zhao's next film, Eternals, is set to release on November 5th, while her current film, Nomadland, is being released to Hulu on February 9th. I appreciate the silence. I know it's hard to sit there and watch me read that live, but that is it, guys. Most of the time I feel like is going to get spent on the GameStop film, so let's go ahead and get into it.
So I'm happy that there is a movie being made about this whole situation with GameStop, because I can say that I am somewhat involved in the whole stock thing. So my contribution led to a movie. You're welcome. But no, I mean, it's an interesting idea. I'm surprised that what was I gonna say? Fuck, I forgot. I was gonna say, I'm surprised they didn't announce this movie like a lot earlier, like as soon as it was going on.
So here, so to give you an idea, the way that this all went down, again, I excluded some details. Apparently, as soon as all of this started breaking, Mesrick decided that he was going to write a book on it. And the moment he started researching to put a book together, he basically put an open bid out to film studios saying, hey, I'm going to write a book on this. A number of you guys have optioned my other books since the social network was successful. Have at MGM won the bid. So that's why it's only being announced now.
I mean, all I can say is be prepared to have the truth completely altered, and essentially every good deed that done. I mean, it's being backed by the people who have had all the money taken off them anyway. So it's not going to be shining, people like Mr. Special Agent Beer up here, who who was a part of it. It'll essentially be like it'll be like an anti-Robin Hood story about a bunch of no good criminals and everything. He's a terrible. You said he did research. He didn't do any research for the Social Network. For the book beforehand, it was.
Ask Zuckerberg.
I mean, I think you can think. I think you can. When it comes to his writing, he's very fast and loose with the truth. And I think with something like this, where there's a lot of people involved, I think it's designed purely just to get people to go, oh, I was a part of this, I'm going to go see the movie, and be like, that had nothing to do with it. Oh, well, they've already taken my money.
Hey, look.
It just sounds like a movie that is going to get a lot of like Oscar buzz, a lot of Golden Globe buzz. It's going to be like in theaters, people will see it. People will be like, oh, well, that was an interesting. It's just, I'm not the demographic for this type of movie. It sounds like The Big Short, but worse. It sounds like The Wolf of Wall Street, but worse. Just the fact that they're already putting it into production and it's barely like it's not even done happening technically. Yeah. It's like you don't even have like an end of this story in mind.
It's over.
You don't know how the story is going to end because the story's still going on.
It's over.
There's still Wanda manipulating reality in this. I don't want to watch
it is over though. Like Monday or Tuesday, the stocks went crashing. It's over.
Yeah, it's going to say it's over. You all lost.
Never over.
But I said it was going to happen.
Yeah. So honestly, the MGM one, I don't really know. It could be good. It could be bad. Actually, I do have an answer to one of the things you mentioned, Grant. Again, when I do research on these things, I look into other avenues that make me curious. So apparently, one of the reasons that the Accidental Billionaires does include, and obviously the Social Network following it, does include certain sections that aren't the most truthful, is because apparently a lot of the research networks that Mesrick was given were actually through Eduardo Sawarvin himself. While he was writing the book, Sawarvin and Zuckerberg settled out of court. Like they settled their issues out of court, and Sawarvin cut off contact with him and wouldn't give him any more information. And so at that point, I think he found as much as he could after that, and then basically has admitted, I just kind of had to write the book with what I knew and kind of fill in the rest myself and make a story out of it. Which again, it's not the most factual telling of the story, and that's for sure. And the Social Network has never claimed to be a documentary about the project. It's just a damn.
But I'm saying years from now, when these movies are made, people are only going to remember what happened about the movie because he's only going to be getting one side. He's not going to people's places and finding out what they did because there's no one to really go to. So he's just going to get it from one side, or he's going to placate one thing and make it this way and try and do something like that. I think the idea of it's just one way of them trying to get a bit of money back.
Yeah. And I was going to say the one that actually interests me more, if not for the sake of it being potentially horrible, is the Netflix one that's in production. If only because it's such a weird thing. Mark Bowl, based off the credits he has, is a great screenwriter. For anyone who doesn't know the production of Zero Dark 30, even if you didn't like the film, I'm a fan of it. But the turnaround on that film and what they came up with is kind of incredible when you think about it. Right. Basically, they were writing a different version of the project in the middle of it, him and Catherine Bigelow. And in the middle of writing the film, they found and killed bin Laden. And so just like that, they turned the project around.
Jimmy Fallon's Fever Pitch. Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore Fever Pitch. That was a movie that they ended up writing in the middle of production because the Red Sox ended up winning that year. and it was just supposed to be it was supposed to be a movie about another year that the Red Sox lost, that went so far and then lost it all because they were like predicting history and saying like, okay, well, that's going to happen again because it happens every year. But then they had to change the script. They had to pivot last second, and then she had to run out into center field during the ALCS. So it's not as serious as Zero Dark 30, but it's just that it's another one of those things where like you're producing something during a story. It's a fluid situation. We have no idea how it's going to end. And like, it's just one of those things where
they're not quite the same. What I was trying to say was, while they were on the same timeline to get the film out by a certain date, they rewrote the script and changed the story completely. Like Zero Dark 30 is not what that movie was supposed to be about originally. But when you know how it ends now you have to kind of, it'd be like if they were writing Zodiac and in the middle of writing Zodiac, they went and fucking found the killer accidentally. It's like, oh shit, now we got to change the story up. But point being, I like a lot of the projects that Mark Bowl has written. So that's and he's already worked with Netflix before on the action film Triple Frontier. So to me, that's an interesting writer. But the thing that it makes me more curious is the actor Noah Centineo. This kid has been in a number, and I say kid, he's probably older than me, but he's been in a number of Netflix films. And they're all just, for the most part, shitty rom-coms. And he's done a few things outside of it, and he's got a couple of upcoming projects that are interesting enough. Like, I hated the film, but I actually didn't think he was that bad in Charlie's Angels for the 10 minutes he was in it. Again, the film's terrible, but I didn't think for what they gave him to do, I didn't think he was that bad. Obviously, he's in Black Adam coming up, which is an interesting casting piece. I don't know if the film's still in production, but for the longest time, he was cast as He-Man. In a He-Man reboot, which again, they have to see something in you to hand you that role. And again, this one is just more interesting to me because it's Netflix, which means it's either going to be surprisingly brilliant or it's going to be a dumpster fire. They don't seem to make middle ground films. They make one or the other. And either would be entertaining, in my opinion.
I just need a terrible movie from Netflix once in a while. So if this is it,
The Kissing Booth 3 comes out this year.
Look, I mean, Noah, he has contributed to so many bad movies on Netflix, and I am grateful for that. So him being casted in this movie gives me a lot of confidence this is going to be garbage, and I can't wait. Yeah.
I will say, though, all things given, the first To All the Boys I've Loved Before, not bad.
It's not too bad.
And that one's solid. The sequel's not good, but the first one's solid for what it is.
Right.
I think both of these movies that we're talking about are actually probably going to come out before the Inhumans do, because that's just going to get pushed back into where in our 80s.
Mm-hmm. Before what comes out?
Inhumans.
Eternals.
Eternals.
Sorry, they are Inhumans, but yeah, the Eternals. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, so let's go ahead and move on to the other two projects. So where do we want to start with? Baby Driver 2 or this sci-fi western vampire project?
Do Baby Driver, because I think the sequel, Toddler Driver, is going to be really, really good.
that would be a good title.
Almost everybody that's going to be in Baby Driver 2 or was in the first one has some like controversy of being terrible people.
So that is the interesting thing.
Kevin Spacey, he's no more.
Kevin Spacey.
What has he done lately?
True.
I mean, I think the appropriate question would be, who has he done? Yes.
Yeah, who has he done?
No. So
I don't care. Right? See, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. People, I am a believer in the criminal justice system, and I'm a believer that. I'm not a complete believer, but I'm a believer that when a person is like convicted of a crime, when the crimes happen, when the sentence has been served, all that stuff, or if it hasn't happened, if like the evidence just washed out and the story went away, I'm one of those people that is just, people gotta work. I mean, I don't have to like them, but they gotta work. I don't have to like pay them myself. I don't think Kevin Spacey's ever gonna work again in like a blockbuster film. And to be honest, I'm kind of upset about that because he's a creep. The guy's a real creep, and he was good at being a creep.
I would normally agree with that whole thing of once you're done with your sentence and, go back to what you're doing and whatnot. If it wasn't for, going after 14-year-old boys, I mean, that was a little much.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, at least he didn't get a
done.
standing ovation like Polanski did after fleeing the charges and everything like that. Don't get me started. Don't get me started on Polanski. I mean, he's still renowned as one of the greatest people in fucking Hollywood ever. And if that doesn't show you the state of what they deem important,
and listen, and let's not talk about the family-friendly version of Roman Polanski, Woody Allen.
I want to talk about the family version of it.
Really family-friendly, literally.
And that's why they don't get
literally
talk about this sort of stuff.
And so this is the thing, right? So that's the first thing is you don't have to worry about any of the cast members coming back because for anyone who doesn't remember the first Baby Driver film, they fucking kill most of the characters.
They all die.
Kevin Spacey's dead. John Hamm is dead. Eiza Gonzalez is dead. I think the only character who actually survives the film is John Bernthal, and even then, they seem to indicate that he also probably get killed off screen.
What happened to Jamie Foxx?
I think he also gets killed during the botched bank robbery, doesn't he?
Headshot, right?
Bunch of beams on a truck go through him.
Yes.
That's right. Sorry, yeah.
It's the escape.
Sorry, it was He was in it for like 8 seconds. So
she gets killed on the. No, is it she gets killed first or he gets killed first?
She gets killed before him.
What happened to her?
Yeah, she gets killed and then Ham goes ape and he dies.
Right. Yeah.
No. Ham's like the main bad guy. Ham takes it to the end and then he dies.
Well, I meant Jamie. Does she die before Jamie?
Oh yeah, no. Jamie dies and then they crash the car. And then
they crash the car. They get out. There's a shootout. She gets shot.
I don't know what her name is.
John Hamm goes off the rails. He dies because a car falls 3 stories. Yeah. Kevin Spacey gets ran over.
He does that cool thing where he jumps over the car.
Well, I mean, if they're going to have people that have had like troubled past or anything, then just bring those in for the sequel. I mean, why not? What was his name from the Emoji movie that doesn't work anymore?
E.J. Miller.
Yeah, bring him in. Yeah, why not?
Bring in him. Harvey Weinstein makes an appearance. Bill Cosby plays the blind old man.
See, I mean, that would be great. And he's eating Jello just for the gag.
But my question is, are they?
Cosby Show episode of WandaVision yet?
Yeah. It's my
Why is your gynecology office in your basement? It's a little weird.
So my question is, are they going to recast Baby in the movie? Because Ansel Elgort did have those pretty bad messages that came out.
All indications at the moment.
Because I can't do Christopher Plummer. So
he
has the right to free speech.
I mean,
here's the thing. If they filmed this last year, they could have because they could have just replaced everyone with Christopher. And it would have been like the Nutty Professor. But
no.
What did he do though? I don't even know what he did.
Christopher Plummer or Ansel
Elgort? Christopher Plummer, he died. Didn't you listen to your speech at the beginning?
Yeah, he died. Ansel Elgort had messages that leaked out where he was being rapey, I believe. Or he was it was some pretty bad stuff.
The original thing that came out was a woman on it was and I pulled it up so I could get this correct. June of last year, a woman through Twitter accused Elgort of sexually assaulting her in 2014 when she was 17 and he was 20. The two lived in New York at the time and were engaged in a relationship, at which point the age of consent in New York is 17. Elgort did not. So what happened was Elgort came out on Instagram, and I believe it's actually the last post he put up on Instagram. He has not done anything since, where he denied the sexual assault allegation, but did say that he and the woman accusing him at the time she is accusing him were in a brief but completely consensual and legal relationship. But it was ended due to personal reasons. So he
pulled out his Michael Bay card from Transformers 5, where it said
that's the thing. That's the thing is if they were both in New York, age of consent is 17. So it was.
You won't need the Romeo and Juliet law. Yeah,
it was legal.
It was just trying to lighten up the mood, guys.
So that's the thing, right? Is basically he came out and acknowledged that he knows her. They had a relationship, but he is denying that he sexually assaulted her. And then, as does happen with these things,
means that he's guilty.
right. Well, so he apparently, from what I could read, and if I misinterpret any of this, please, someone correct me. But I believe there was a legal investigation into it. I don't know what the conclusion of it was, but I believe he, actively participated. Basically, he complied with it. But as does happen, when one person says something, then there are other reports that come out. People basically going to Twitter and tweeting things out. And again, it's how much of this is true, how much of it isn't.
What was great?
What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say it's another one of those. It's a very weird position of, nobody knows what the final verdict is. Nobody knows what's true and what's not, and so it's that weird stance of you don't want to write somebody off too quickly and say that they're this and they're that without knowing the answers.
Yeah.
But you also don't want to potentially silence out sexual assault victims because the truth is we don't know if they were or not on a legal standpoint. We don't know what the conclusion of any trial is. And it's not known. I don't know if he's actually been on a legal standpoint tried for it. There's no news on that.
I think it might have been a civil thing, always like a civil thing. And in those situations, you got to always think like money. And then like there might have been some sort of behind the scenes settlement. I don't know. But what I was going to say is like, remember in Man of Steel, how on Krypton, like they were just like this sexually repressed society and they just didn't bang anymore. And all of the babies were just conceived through like planning and nobody followed their sexual instincts. I just think the world would be a better place if it was more like Krypton because then these pervy men wouldn't be going around doing this stuff.
So I got one of the things that she said. If you want me to read it.
Yeah, let's not go too deep, but go ahead.
So because this is the only thing I saw. It's on the Independent. This is what she tweeted out or whatever. So they were doing the dirty, and she it's and how it reads is instead of asking me if I wanted to stop having the dirty, knowing it was my first time and I was sobbing in pain and I didn't want to, the only words that came out of his mouth were, "We need to break you in." It's a little weird. And there's another grant. I'm going to put you in and nope, wait, there we go. And I'll remove this one. There we go. So
hello.
It's a little weird. I haven't heard anything since that whole thing happened with them.
Right.
So
it's
who knows
not
what's going on?
And the thing is he's also and this is the thing which I think it stands to is he does have a very big upcoming project coming out. It's called West Side Story with Steven Spielberg. Unlike with other recent allegations, Spielberg has not gone back on El Gore or doubled back on him or talked about any kind of post-filming recast, especially because if they wanted to, they could. Because the film was pushed to the end of this year. They could have if they wanted to. Vice versa, another report that came out the same time last year was reports of Chris D'Elia, doing some bad things. And that actually went so far as him, any potential for him returning to the Netflix show You being written away automatically. And Zack Snyder shot him out of Army of the Dead, recasting him with another comedian, Tig Notaro.
That's a very loose terminology.
Tig's great.
Just yeah. I wouldn't say comedian. I would just say replace with Tig Notaro. So yeah,
the definition is comedian. I'm just saying it. It's whatever you're.
Well, here's the
when
thing.
When it comes to Tig Notaro, I don't want to get too caught up on definitions because it's a very slippery slope.
That one is just so great because we need more of her in the world. So the right thing happened in that situation.
Grant does not seem to agree based off my calling her.
No, here's the thing. I know the moment that Chris D'Elia realized that he fucked up is when he realized that you could save Snapchat, and you saw it on when he was on The Fighter and the Kid, and they went, "What do you mean you can save Snapchat?" And you can see him running shit through his head, and then 3 days later, everything broke. Everything broke out with it. But I mean, get Chris D'Elia in the movie, get Aziz Ansari, all these people that have had no release. Brian Callen, let's throw him in there as well. Like, I think that's the way you're going to do it. If you're going to have a cast of people that had issues, just make it like the Expendables. Literally, they are expendable. The actors are the Expendables. Yeah. You can go Baby Driver, toddler driver, adolescence driver. all the way up to senior driver, and you could do it with all the old people as well that have said
driver.
bad shit in the past. Like, just recast every single one. Keep the character the same character, but just recast him. I just think that would be funny, and Edgar Wright could pull it off until he gets in trouble again.
So,
something.
but Tig is great.
I mean,
Right.
you can say that. I mean, I understand the words that are coming out of your mouth. I just don't understand the context of them.
So you don't on Discovery, you know the engineering lady?
Yes, I know who you're talking about, and that's. I mean,
you like her. Even you like her. Somebody who hates Discovery. You still like
the only character on that can actually make Michael Burnham look good is Tig Notaro's engineering. Like, it's just.
I love her.
Oh, yeah. And that's fine. You can like all the wrong people you like. That's fine. I don't have any issue with it.
She's never done anything wrong.
Yeah.
That we know.
Listen, don't say those words. She's never done anything wrong, or like the horror words of Hollywood. Everyone has something absolutely waiting to come out of the closet. You know what I mean?
I mean, she probably might actually have a skeleton in her closet. I don't know. I mean,
she's a dead Vision,
speculation.
Corpse in her closet.
Oh god.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the Chloe Zhao film. So this idea of, so we already knew that Universal had one Dracula film in production, which not much is known about it, except they basically put it together on the heels of and in the vein of their Invisible Man film.
Yeah.
So that Jason Blum is in it. So I don't know what type of approach that film is going to take.
He wants to bite someone.
And now we get this one. And Diaz commented it a little bit ago. I'll pull it up. Having seen Nomadland, you're all in for a treat. I've heard it's brilliant. I haven't had a chance to see it. I'm probably going to check it out. Probably I will check it out on Hulu if it isn't released to a theater near me, because they are expanding their theater count, but I don't know how high it's going to go. So if it's not in a theater near me, I'll definitely check it out on Hulu like ASAP, because I've heard it's really great. Yeah, this intrigues me. Honestly, like Dracula is one of those stories where we've seen so many versions of it that I think they do have to try and start getting creative with it. And I like the idea of some kind of sci-fi neo-Western type of, obviously we've seen it done horribly, but we've also seen it done well in the past. And I really think something like that could work. And I think Chloe Zhao is a great talent. And clearly it shows that her experience working on Eternals was at least good enough that she wants to step into another blockbuster. You know, sometimes we see these directors move into blockbuster filmmaking and it goes so horribly that they kind of take a step back and don't want to do it again.
I mean, it could still be the same thing, and she wants to cleanse the palate with something really quickly before it actually comes out.
Yeah.
No, you're right. She absolutely could.
It just hit me. With Dracula, you just said you want to do it another way. You want to like have Dracula. It's been told so many different times. And I joke not. This is not a joke.
Oh, no.
Gay Dracula.
Oh, no.
That's done plenty of times.
I'm not kidding. No, not in your line of work, Grant. I'm talking about in an actual like movie. I think that's the way to go with this. Or,
I mean, they definitely alluded to it. They definitely alluded to it in the TV series.
What's your pitch?
Lesbian Dracula. Yes.
What's your pitch further than? But that's my problem with that pitch, though.
Tig Notaro, Dracula, lesbian.
There you go. Go picture, kid. Go picture. Take it.
Is like
do it, please.
Like I would hate that, because I wouldn't like if the vampire in Chloe Zhao's Dracula happens to be gay. I wouldn't mind that. Sure, it's
call me by your name, but with Dracula.
Is Dracula just
yeah.
Is Dracula going to jack off a piece of garlic or something? Is that what's going to happen? Like, are we?
No, it's all a metaphor about like seduction and stuff. Dracula, I want to suck your blood.
But here's the thing: if it's being set in like the Wild West sort of thing, that sort of thing, and you got a bunch of cowboys or whatever it is who aren't gay, who are now being seduced by Dracula. It's basically saying, well, being gay is actually now a choice, because he's forcing you into it. Or everyone in that town, all the cowboys were gay. I mean, like it's a very weird, slippery sort of slope that you got to be careful with when it comes to that sort.
I would say Gary Oldman's interpretation is at least bisexual. He was enough. He was flamboyant
I
enough.
thought you were going to say you wanted Gary Oldman as gay Dracula.
No, I would say his interpretation was flamboyant enough. We could at least, theorize bisexuality.
Not all gay people are flamboyant. Check your privilege, Aaron. Not all gay people are flamboyant. Check your privilege.
No, not all of them are. But Paul Bettany as Dracula would be bitching, wouldn't it? That'd be a perfect casting.
As long as his face was purple, I'd be happy.
All right.
You heard what I'm saying, though, right? He's got the charisma.
Okay, stepping aside from gay Dracula and focusing in, Matt, save us. What are your thoughts on this project?
I haven't seen a Chloe Zhao movie, so I have no idea how good of a director she is, in my opinion. I like the idea of this Dracula movie. I would be very, very happy if we went the lesbian route because I'm a, you know me. But
he's an avid fan of women working.
Yes, I am a fan. Cast more women in these roles. Look, we need LGBTQ representation or something like that.
We need
Tig. We need Tig. Look, Margot Robbie, she's in everything. Cast her in this. Make her Dracula. I don't know. Make the love interest Gal Gadot.
So you're writing DC's fanfic with this film?
That works because you can have Tig Notaro as Van Helsing.
Yeah,
so that works. So
there you go. Or I don't know who's a homophobic actor out there. Mike Pence. We'll have Mike Pence play Van Helsing.
The villain of the story. Mike Pence is the villain.
The movie is about the Dracula played by Margot Robbie trying to take down these camps made by Mike Pence in the future.
And he's gonna steal your uterus.
No, he used to be my governor.
This is horrific.
But anyway,
you even brought up Mike Pence. Okay. This was going great with Tig Notaro.
They said a while one. He's something that's different. Said it in Outback Australia. Have an Australian version.
Yes.
Who's the Australian version of Mike Pence?
Nicole Kidman.
Has them in there.
Keith Urban. They're all great.
Keith Urban. We'll get Carl Urban. Carl Urban.
He's New Zealander, so
he's the most conservative guy there.
I don't know.
Anthony Starr, he's also New Zealand. So just
to be fair, if an American is making an Australian film, some Americans are so tone deaf they could accidentally cast an Irish person as an Australian. So New Zealand could definitely pass.
Well, if they're going to do that, do the comedian Jamal, and he's lived out here for about 40 years, so that would work. He's Australian by citizen, so we would accept that.
What's his name?
Jamoan.
Jamoan?
Jason
Momoa? Not Jason Momoa. Though he does live in Sydney.
Jason Momoa.
Warner Brothers Pictures proudly presents Australia, starring Diego Luna. But
I am Juan Solo.
Australia.
But like I said, I haven't seen Nomadland yet. Obviously Eternals, haven't seen.
I'm looking forward though.
Looking forward to it. It looks different in a way, but it's probably going to be very similar to other Marvel movies because the formula is there and it's going to continue to happen until it doesn't work for them. So I'll have to watch Nomadland I think on the 19th is when it's going to be on Hulu.
The 9th is what I read.
The 9th?
I might have seen it. A friend has this weird TV that accidentally downloads the latest
films
and stuff.
It's the Hollywood. It's the Hollywood.
It's a weird thing.
Technically, it is in release, I believe, internationally, so it's not out of the way. What do you think of the film?
It's very short. It's very TV formulaic for a direction.
So I'm not
very slow burn.
Okay. So that my excitement for both Eternals and this Dracula thing has gone down unless you cast Margot Robbie and Gal Gadot with Scarlett Johansson as a supporting role. Gotta have a love triangle. Gotta have a love triangle in this thing.
You just erased Tig from this.
So
Tig will be somewhere in there. Tig will be in there. But what, Aaron?
No, I mean,
are you just making Vicky Cristina Barcelona with vampires?
My idea.
Scarlett Johansson and all? Like, is that what we're doing?
You corrupted my idea. I'm gonna have to come out with a straighter cut in a year, and
I'll call it the Matt cut. The Matt cut.
Well, I mean, he's an idea. It's a little bit different. How about we make Dracula an incel? He can seduce
Yes.
anyone.
He's me.
He just doesn't have the courage to do
He's
it.
me now.
Yeah.
It's just he's
So,
on
Oh,
Tinder
Lord.
swiping. He's on
Van-
Tinder
Van-
swiping.
Helsing is the popular guy that gets all the women. He's like, oh, I could do it. If only
So
they'd look me in the eye.
And with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next set of
Off the
stories.
rails tonight, guys. Off the fucking rails.
We'll go ahead and move on to the next set of
Right.
stories, and we're going to go ahead and flip back to Marvel because there were some Marvel headlines that dropped this week. Let's go ahead and get into those briefly. So talking about that other Marvel news this week. Now, this first story, I will say, does include pieces of information that were inconsistently reported. Some of the different pieces were reported in some write-ups of it and not in others. And some included some of it and not others. It was weirdly inconsistently reported depending on what website you go to, including the credible ones. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. But this week, Ryan Coogler announced that he had signed a 5-year production deal with Disney through his new company, Proximity Media, to produce content with them. The first project that will be released is Black Panther 2, but they've already announced that a follow-up will be happening in the form of a Black Panther spin-off, which has a rumored title of Kingdom of Wakanda. It'll be an anthology-style drama show set to air on Disney Plus, focused on stories from Wakanda itself. Not much else is known about the project except the focus on the production will begin after Black Panther 2 is completed. This week, we learned directly from actor Don Cheadle himself that Rhodey Rhodes, aka War Machine, will be appearing in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Outside of what we assume is a single episode appearance, not much is known about the role or the capacity that he's in, but Cheadle himself seemed to indicate that the appearance will play into setting up the character's role in his upcoming solo show, Armor Wars. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now The War Machine, will begin airing on March 19th, 2021. Mahershala Ali's upcoming Blade film may have a new writer and title. This week it was announced that Watchmen writer Stacey Osai Kofor, if I mispronounced that, excuse me, is rumored to be attached as the writer of the upcoming film, which is apparently titled Blade the Vampire Slayer. The film has no release date as of now. And finally, for Marvel, this week, the first set of photos from Thor Love and Thunder were released, showing off new looks for Thor and some of the Guardians of the Galaxy. The most interesting note from the pictures is the inclusion of actor Sean Gunn, who was not in a mocap onesie, but instead in full costume for his character Kraglin. Kraglin, who had seemingly partnered with the Guardians at the end of Volume 2, was absent from Infinity War and had his bit part in Endgame cut out of the film, meaning fans don't know where the character has been during the battles with Thanos. It'll be interesting to find out what happened when Thor Love and Thunder releases on May 6th, 2022. So we can talk about some of the other ones first. I'm in the middle of getting the set images uploaded, so I'll be able to show them in just a second for you guys.
Well, I'm just excited.
Blade the Vampire Slayer?
Yeah, the vampire. I'm excited to see Blade square off against Tig Notaro's Dracula.
It's Margot Robbie's Dracula.
No,
Tig is the mother.
Tig is not the mother. How dare you?
She is the mother. It's Margot Robbie. Anyway, this is Blade.
We're going to have a
don't ruin my dream movie, okay? Don't ruin my dream movie. Blade. We're talking Blade. We're talking Blade. We're talking
Blade. Tig Notaro's not in Blade.
I'm not excited about this writing. She's.
I was trying to buy you time for the pictures.
I think it's a mistake.
I like the writer they got.
The title or the writer?
Both.
Okay.
Blade is a very, let's just say, antiquated type of character. He's a very macho, very alpha male as type sort of character, and he doesn't give a shit about anything political. And you've got someone who's a very political writer who's also stated likes to put all her political beliefs in. I think that's a mistake. And the Vampire Slayer, oh come on! You're literally naming Blade after a girl's TV series and movie. Like something's got to be better than that. Like this Blade we're talking about.
Well,
Joss Whedon isn't involved in all, right?
No, he's not.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I just think that's weird because I think they've kind of distanced themselves from Joss Whedon and kind of like I heard that title. I'm thinking, oh, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Oh, Joss Whedon. Like that's kind of weird.
they've distanced themselves since what, Age of Ultron?
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, they're I mean, unless I'm sure if Joss Whedon wants to come back, they'll bring him back in some way.
He left because he wanted to. It wasn't
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, more
That's
so.
what it was. Yeah.
Let's
They just-
clarify that. Marvel has never said anything bad about Whedon, and they have not
No.
made any attempts to distance themselves. It was simply he chose not to come back for a third
Yeah.
Avengers film. They went a different direction with the Russos, and that's it. But there's never
And
been any bad blood between the two.
I never thought it was any bad blood. I just always thought that once Disney took over, Joss Whedon's vision was no pun intended, was kind of, they didn't want to go in the direction that Joss Whedon wanted to go anymore. They kind of wanted to go with Feige. They had like this, because in the middle of Age of Ultron, if you watch that movie, there's sort of like a pivot in the middle of that movie where the like Paramount era of Marvel Studios ended, and now the Disney era of Marvel Studios began.
Well, Disney, I
don't think Paramount's had
I don't
anything
read-
to do
I
with
don't
them
read
since the
into-
first one.
No,
I don't
Paramount
know
was that was before the first Avengers. So.
Yeah,
It was
Paramount.
I'm more talking about films that were in production when the Disney deal happened. So like Iron Man.
Anyway, so we're talking about Blade.
That's another thing.
We get back to get back to Blade.
What was your first of the Marvel stories?
So the first one on there is the Wakanda show. Now the pieces of information I was talking about are the rumored title Kingdom of Wakanda was inconsistently reported, and also the nature of the show. I found in some reports that it mentioned it was an anthology show. Other reports did not mention that, but they did not mention any other kind of show that it could be. So I ran with it. So like I said, take everything with a grain of salt, all the details, but we do know that something's happening.
Everything
anthology show for Wakanda would be perfect because you've got so many stories over so many different years and set it in the same location. So, like, with just you could literally cast anyone in any role. Like, it's limitless. So if you do an anthology story, and then being an anthology story, so you can bring other people back in different roles because generations and generations have passed. Because assuming that there's not a lot of people coming in, so there's a lot of almost like close breeding within the people up there. So everyone's relatively. So you're having people look alike would be fine. So I think you could cast someone in an earlier one and then bring them in a modern one. Like I would love to have seen like 10 episodes focused just on the what's his name? Damn it. The Rhino Herder. Yeah.
The Broke Border.
Yeah, something like that. Because that's, I mean, for a technology-based city that was like that, having that when that was the big thing back in the day, that would have been cool.
Yeah. It's like the dragon.
War rhinos, where it was actually physically war rhinos when you've got spaceships, it doesn't make the difference. But like, I think doing an anthology would work. If they're not basing it on Black Panther, and it has nothing to do with Black Panther, and it's just the people of the world, it could be any story just set in any location, and that could work too. I mean, you could tell a detective story in that entire thing, and that would still work. It's just a part of the universe.
So, do you think that was one of the things that I was concerned about, because Wakanda in Black Panther and in Infinity War, it's portrayed as this very futuristic society where there isn't really anything wrong. There isn't any. We don't see crime. We don't see hunger. We don't see anybody inside of Wakanda itself suffering. So, with the whole entire point of like the Black Panther is supposed to protect Wakanda. That was the part that concerned me when I first heard about this. Like, okay, if something's going wrong with Wakanda that's interesting enough to watch, why isn't the Black Panther getting involved? And why is that separate from the movies? But then as soon as I heard like anthology, as soon as I heard like maybe ancient Wakanda stuff, that's when my interest like was just gauged in.
Well, I mean, T'Challa's father. He was still doing the same thing. Yeah, that's why he was a part of the UN. He was still doing the Black Panther role. But if their world was like that, he was doing it where he could internationally. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I guess that makes sense with that. So it shows the evolution of that. But like, I'd like to see it when
Panther while he was king. So it showed that the mantle can be passed down without the throne.
Right. I don't need to see when the meteor hit and the first one happened, like that sort of thing. Yeah, I think that give us something where it's generations in.
Meteor hits, then Wakanda that was there then is gone. Like it's the people that settled on the meteor.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's just a story. It's a story of an African village, and it
That'd
ends
be a
with this
short
meteor
story,
hitting,
just-
wiping everyone out, and then now Black Panther's in. I mean, that would be. I don't think they could do that.
No. But I was thinking like
but-
Game of Thrones in Wakanda, early Wakanda. I like anthology too, though. Beer, what you got?
I don't know.
Okay.
It could be a cool show, but
Yeah, it could. I feel like it's one of those things where until we really know what it is, it's kind of hard to be excited about it. It's another one of those like for me personally, it's another one of those where it's like this could be anything. Once I know more what it's about, then I can get excited for it. As somebody who truly believes that the MCU should go back to having some things that are just small personal stories and not everything needs to be this big universe advancing tale. I certainly like the sound of this. I don't know how on earth you could squeeze a big universe advancing tale into what this show sounds like it could be. I don't want to see how. But again, it's one of those. I'll have to know who's involved because Coogler, from everything I can gather, Coogler won't be a director. He'll be a producer on it.
Yeah.
So it'll be who's involved, what's their background, what are we working with in terms of story, who's in it, that type of thing for me.
And for Black Panther 2, they need to recast. Either recast or change to Black Panther because
I think they said they weren't going to.
But the character, here's the thing: it's happening in every other sort of medium and everything.
No, I think
the character is bigger, especially in a multi-faceted universe. For a character that can be multiple people, they need to do it.
Yeah. And so from everything that I've read when doing,
but now they won't do Shiri because of the video that she shared on Twitter. So now she's out of it. They've already said so.
Have
you have the Guardians picks? I couldn't find them anywhere.
What was that?
The Guardians of the Galaxy pictures? I couldn't find them anywhere.
Yeah, Thor looks like he's in an 80s band and he's playing
I
the
have
keyboard.
them pulled up. I was just waiting to get to that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, pull them up.
Part of it. Okay, yeah. So we'll go ahead and get in. So they're not like filming set pictures; they're behind the scenes bits. But so this is the first one. So here we see Hemsworth. Nice. The long hair's back, the weight's lost. Here he's in costume.
He looks like Kevin Nash back in the day.
He clearly just took one of Star-Lord's vests and put it on.
So then here is the second shot, and this is where we get our first look at we have Nebula. We have Nebula on the side there, and they have something going on with her arm. Looks a bit different.
Right.
I don't know who that is. That's somebody in what looks like a mocap jumpsuit. And then again,
maybe that's Rocket. Rocket's in the same scene as Kraglin.
Possibly, yes, they could have another stand-in. Yeah. But the interesting thing here is here's Kraglin again. Sean Gunn is in full costume, and one thing that people have noted is that we knew he got the arrow at the end of the second film, but now he has the controlling piece also placed on his head.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to point out there. The third picture,
mocap, he looks the same build as Sean Gunn.
He is very skinny.
Looks like he's the exact same size as him. So it wouldn't surprise me at all that that's a stand-in for Rocket because Sean Gunn obviously is going to have a bigger role in this movie. That's awesome. He looks like he's like a rock star.
Kevin Nash from the 90s.
So there's that, and he's pictured with Chris Pratt. Here's another shot of the two of them talking. This is probably before Hemsworth was in costume. We see the group of them talking. So this is a completely, or actually I'll go to this one first. So this is another shot of Nebula working with probably a production assistant or someone directing her. And again, we get a better shot of her new look and costume in this.
Anything with Stormbreaker or Stormbreaker?
No, and then the last picture that we have, completely separate from these set of pictures, but whatever they're having her do in the film, Natalie Portman was pictured doing horseback training.
Wow.
So
it's a good chance for that.
Though, like not fat Thor.
What happened?
Thor, he's not fat.
Yeah. She falls off. She falls off the horse, hurts her back, and then she gets a scan, and they realize that she has a tumor in it, and it's already spread through her body.
Yes, possibly. So this isn't filming because she has a mask on. They wouldn't be filming if she didn't. She wouldn't have it on if they were filming.
Unless they were changing the helmet.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Because no, she
change the look to include face masks.
No, she's probably training to ride with the Valkyries. So that makes sense.
So those were the only set pictures that got dropped. But again, I do think it's interesting. Honestly, the thing that does interest me most is the Kraglin thing. You know, I've liked Sean Gunn for the small bit he had in both those films. And I liked the idea that they did kind of set up at the end of the second one that
we were in the same room as him.
He seems to be taking the place of Yondu in that team going forward. And
That's
then
awesome. He's going to be Mary Poppins, Joel.
He is. He's the next Mary Poppins.
He's like the Ravager ambassador. Like he's like the conduit.
The Rambassador, we call them.
True. So that's the interesting thing is.
Oh yeah, Starhawk Stallone. And
he wasn't in Infinity War at all, and apparently he did film a bit scene as Kraglin in Endgame, and it got cut.
Behind the scenes.
And
obviously
obviously
they come like within pixels of showing him.
Yeah.
They come like right up.
They intentionally cut him out, and I don't get why, because he's already credited in the movie for Rocket, so it might have been like a payment thing.
He's playing Rocket, so we know he was on set. So yeah, that's just, to me, it's weird how at the end of the film, I'm curious to see how they explain it, where at the end of the film, they establish he's with the team, then he's not in 2 films, and then all of a sudden he's brought back. I
would say he was there, they just didn't show him. Like in universe, I don't think or that could be a thing where James Gunn had an idea saying like, hey, I don't think Kraglin was in that battle. Could you not show him? Like an R2-D2 at the end of Force Awakens, like that was something that they added in after the fact. It was very late in the game that somebody wanted R2-D2 to be on the Falcon with Rey. So like something where James Gunn came in with Endgame and said, "Hey, could you not show Kraglin? Because I kind of wanted to start Kraglin off somewhere else."
I mean, that is
sorry guys, just don't want to interrupt. I just got a warning on my phone that it's overheating from StreamYard, so it means I've probably got about 2 minutes before it shuts off. So I'll jump off. It'll probably take me 20 minutes to get back on. If you're still on, I'll jump on. If not, thanks everyone for having me on.
Absolutely.
Thanks everyone except for Tignataro. You know, appreciate you all, and you have a good one.
Letterman.
Necessary.
So, that is what your theory is possible. Simply because I know Gunn was given consultancy power over the Guardians characterizations in those films. The Russos did work with him. I don't know if Taika is. I don't know what sort of relationship they have. And if Gunn,
this was for Thor.
This is
You're
for
right.
Thor.
I didn't even I'm just looking at the pictures and I assumed that it was.
I don't know how much they're in. I don't know how much they're in the film, and I don't know what influence. Because for all we know, they're only in the first 10 minutes, and that they're just getting it all out of the way now.
They look cool.
They do look cool. So with that, I was gonna say I think we talked about all of the pieces of it.
Oh, wow.
Let me find it. Where is it?
In that case, I definitely think that's what I said. That or the stand-in could be Meek.
True. Well, they did reference previously that they referenced a real life stand-in for Meek, but they referenced it as a female. So I don't know if there's a female actress portraying the character.
Right. So while you're looking for that, I do want to bring up.
So here we go. So the other bit of news that I just want to touch on briefly because I'm a fan. I'm excited for this show. I think the fact that Rhodey's going to be in Falcon and Winter Soldier, even if it's for an episode, makes absolute sense.
I love
I do kind of wish they'd kept it a secret at this point. I get why they said it, but I do kind of wish it'd been kept a secret, if only so that it would be a surprise when it happens on the show, because they got through filming the entire show without it being leaked.
Yeah.
But hey, people get excited. It happens.
I think Rhodey has the best shot, like the best single shot in all of the MCU, my favorite scene in Infinity War, and this is an oh good for you moment, was when Rhodey just carpet bombs the edge of that shield, and then it just that's like my favorite scene in Infinity War. Every time I watch that movie, I'm like, yeah,
You're looking for this?
oh, I love it. Boom, looking for this.
Yeah. So I just
More
as
Rhodey.
somebody who really likes Don Cheadle's characterization, as someone who's really looking forward to the grounded feel that this show seems to be going for. They've said as much, that it is very much Winter Soldier influenced, and obviously we know, they're bringing back Emily Van Camp, they're bringing back Daniel Bruhl, George St. Pierre's back as Batroc, so clearly they are literally very influenced by those films. I think out of every hero in the MCU, like, to me, War Machine would make the most sense to appear in something.
Long-time Avenger. That was the headline that I read. Was it said long-time Avenger, and I thought about it. He's the longest Avenger. Thor might be strongest Avenger, but he's longest Avenger because he's been avenging since Iron Man 2 with Black Widow and Iron Man, and those guys are gone. Like, they're gone now.
Nope,
so like
you're
he's
true. Yep.
been, like, the longest Avenger. But I'm so excited about this show. I don't think they've confirmed. Have they confirmed Sam Rockwell is coming back as Justin Hammer?
I don't
is that
think
something?
so.
No.
I cannot wait to see Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer in Armor Wars. That has to be happening. I think you're going to have Don Cheadle, War Machine, versus Sam Rockwell, Justin Hammer. I think that's what that show is. And God damn it, I can't wait.
Is nobody going to address the Don Cheadle longest Avenger joke?
Here's the thing. You're bringing Terrence Howard to play the TV version of War Machine.
There you go.
And on that, we'll go ahead and move on to the next set of news. We do have another discussion piece on the MCU we can get into maybe as the show's closer or a little later, but we'll break it up again. We'll get into some other stories first. I'll go ahead and drop some kind of smaller stories on you guys before we move on. So the first one with this is fans of the show Game of Thrones can rejoice with some positivity, as this week score composer Ramin Djawadi confirmed that he would be returning to compose the spin-off series House of the Dragon for HBO. Djawadi is most known for his work on the original show and is also known for composing films like the first Iron Man and Pacific Rim. Though the show currently doesn't have a release date, HBO is gearing up to film with casting and production work already being done. Earlier this week, Zack Snyder released the first promo image of Jared Leto's Joker from Zack Snyder's Justice League. There's no other info on here, and I'll put the image up in just a second, but that's it. That's what it is. Here's the image. Look at it while I read the next story. This week, U.S. National Treasure Danny DeVito was asked about the long-in-development film Triplets, the sequel to the 1980s comedy Twins. DeVito said that the project is apparently still being worked on, although he did not say it with confidence. And he did say that all three proposed stars and himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Eddie Murphy, are still on board should the script finally be written. If it ever does enter production, we'll probably sort of care and probably bring it up. And finally, Sony announced that its upcoming Resident Evil reboot, simply titled Resident Evil, is set to be released on September 3rd, 2021. The film is written and directed by 47 Meters Down Helmer Johannes Roberts and is said to be a more direct adaptation of the games than Paul W.S. Anderson's films were, being directly based off the stories of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. The film stars an ensemble led by Robbie Amell, Kaya Scodelario, Avon Jogia, Hannah John Kamen, and Neil McDonough, who are all appearing as characters from the original games itself, and the film will release, as mentioned, on September 3rd, 2021. As we go back into the wide shot, with some weird backgrounds happening, I don't know what that is all about, but let's let it happen.
Jacob did mention that. He said, sorry for changing the backgrounds and the logos. I will fix that.
Well, we'll see if it gets fixed in a little bit. If not,
it's fun. It was a fun intro to like an addition to the thing. Like, we're on TM Geek now. We're geeking out about this shit with Jared Leto's Joker. I mean, this crazy Jesus man has done it again, people. What will he do next?
So hold on, just so I can respond to it correctly, I am going to go to the comments for just a second. Diaz, if you want us to answer the question about Jared Leto, can you clarify it a bit more for me in terms of what you mean? I just have to throw that out there. If you do, then I'll take a look at it. But yeah, we'll start with the image. I think it was Nikki audibly moaned. So what do you think of it?
Well, he had like the longer hair. Like it kind of looks like out of focus. It looks like he has the longer hair that we saw like on Joaquin Phoenix, Morbius. So it has to go with his Jesus look. So I mean, but the Joker card was the Joker card that we did see on Batman's gun in the future scene, like where we see like the future hellscape. So it's fascinating. I've heard some rumors that I don't want to say because it might be too spoilery, but right there, even though it's blurred out, that's the most Jared Leto has looked like the Joker in this universe. So, and it even looks like they blurred out the face just so that you don't see it until the final product is done. Like that doesn't look like that's a shot from the movie. That looks like they took the picture and then blurred out the face and stuff so that there's some sort of reveal. Like maybe he doesn't have the tattoos anymore. Maybe he like put makeup on. He put like clown makeup on. So it's more like the Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Who really knows? Because his like interpretations of characters, he's shown that he doesn't need to stick to the DCEU canon. Because his whole reason for Aquaman and Mira speaking in the bubble was everybody thought that might have been a reshoot. No, his explanation was, hey, he can't talk underwater if he's not breathing in oxygen. And then even with the Flash, with like him not saving people, you can want to show that because if the Flash is moving that fast, he would just obliterate everybody like A-Train in The Boys.
With Robin, yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, anyway.
So
the picture.
I went to Nikki because he loved it. Matt, you hate this. Why?
It's fucking blurred. Here's our first look at the Joker in this movie and a blurred image with him holding a card. I want to see him without it being blurred.
You will if you watch the movie.
When you cut Amber Heard out.
They won't do that.
No, when you do it. I will watch your cut. I'm going to watch the Nikki cut of the Snyder cut of Justice League.
No. Matt, I'm not kidding with you. That is the thing I am looking most to in this world for this year. That is my most anticipated event of the year. Is not watching the Justice League, is watching the Nikki cut of the Justice League with Matt here.
Wait, so is this hold up, are we breaking news on After Dark? Following the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, there will be Nikki Sullivan's Zack Snyder's Justice League.
He will be doing it. It won't have Amber Heard in it. It'll have something else. It might have one of those subliminal WandaVision advertisements in there so that we can fill the time.
Just record you saying what the line is that Amber Heard.
That would be great. I could put on a wig
in front of in front of your wall.
Oh shit!
It would be great.
But
I could. Do you want me to hold up the Maxim issue with Amber Heard in it, or do you want no Amber Heard?
No Amber Heard.
I didn't want to be aroused by her.
Part of that deal was I have to do a commentary of the original cut of Justice League with Matt Beer. Right. So that's going to be coming whenever Matt has the time. I always have the time.
So Matt, the deal for you to get a cut with 2 seconds shaved out of it is that you both have to torture yourself for 2 hours.
No, I
4.
Well, 6, 2, and then 4. 2 for me, 4 for him.
Yeah.
So I'll have to watch the game to even it out.
Right. But to get back to the picture, when you say here's your first look at the Joker, I don't want to be like, okay, and then have like a blurred. Okay, of course, it's not going to get out of sync.
It's not blurred. It's a very narrow focus.
I want to see his face. I want to see his face. That's all I want to see. A clear.
What is it described at from the mouth of the Snyder?
The mouth of the Snyder, like Zack Snyder?
There wasn't enough detail in that article.
It's an artistic
to have a description from the mouth of the Snyder.
Well, he tweeted, right?
I don't know, probably.
No, I think he said first look at
Vero.
Or he said
Evan's getting hard on you.
Glad to be bringing in this character he created to David Ayer. He mentioned David Ayer in the tweet.
Okay. He doesn't like him.
I don't mind David Ayer and whatnot.
That's that game of telephone right there.
I like David Ayer.
No. It's just I was like, I heard that he said something about David Ayer, and then that went to Zack Snyder doesn't like David Ayer.
Here it
So,
is.
so
I don't
the
understand
Joker
that.
has
So
changed.
it says, amazing character you created. Honored to have our worlds collide.
Okay,
At David Ayer, at Jared Leto. And then it's his face
Reese
blurred
haircut.
with the card. I want to see his face. Because
I
that
do.
could be Jared Leto, that could be Joaquin Phoenix, that could be Jigsaw from
It
What I-
Saw.
spoils it. It spoils it. It could be Tobin Bell. Could you
Here's my
imagine?
only-
It's
Here's my only thing with
Jack
this
Nicholson.
image. As a promo image, I think it's cool. I do think it's cool as a promo image. I think it's a cool design. I get what Matt's saying. Like, if it's a first look, you want to be able to see the look.
Yeah, I want to see
My thing is, and I think the performance left a lot to be desired. But as somebody who, again, I've said many times when talking about Marvel, and same applies to DC, I'm not as versed in the comics history, so I'm always open to new interpretations. I actually kind of liked what David Ayer was going for in Suicide Squad. I could see the vision he had in, like, yeah, if this is set in the modern day and this is what modern day gangs look like, Joker in Batman was Joker that would fit into gangs in the 80s. This is a Joker that would fit into gangs in the modern day. Of course, the motherfucker would look like Takashi. Like, that makes sense. The performance left a lot to be desired. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the poor editing of the film.
Here's
But
the thing: would he be on a boat with Rick Ross and Skrillex?
yeah, probably. Definitely Rick Ross.
He had more.
Definitely Rick Ross. You
He had
know
more
they gangbang.
time in that music video than he did in the actual
Dude,
movie.
Rick, you know he's gangbanging with Rick Ross, man. Rick Ross is the dude who once said a line in a song, "Pop Molly in her champagne, she ain't even know it. Took her back and hit that, she ain't even know it."
I don't even know what that means.
Know,
Horrible.
you know they're gangbanging
And
together.
I don't like modern songs.
No, I don't like it.
To be fair, even Rick Ross admitted he was an idiot for that one. But
Can I go back to watching WandaVision instead of hearing that?
so the point in case being, I see what the vision was. My problem with this image is this image makes him look very reminiscent of every other Joker we've seen, and that actually excites me less. That we're going back to powdered white face, long hair. Like, I like that. I like Joaquin's interpretation. I like Heath's interpretation. I don't need to see Jared Leto do Heath's Joker. I want to see Jared Leto go for whatever they were going for.
It's interesting though.
The design of it makes me feel like they're going to reinterpret it and do it like even there. I know the image is like focused in, but there's no tattoos on his face. Like, I get that.
We don't have
any like
context,
that.
though.
I guess, but it's just, if that's the image you're putting out, one of the things that does interest me about this is, if we're getting this project, this is the uncut. This is everything. This is everything that he had envisioned. This is basically us getting a chance to look at what could have been with a failed universe. I don't think they're going to do anything more with this. I think this is the dead end, and this is us getting to see what they could have done. And if what they were going to do was just re-envision Jared Leto's Joker to be something else, then that's just DC being reactionary again, and I don't care anymore. You've taken my interest away from that character.
I don't think that's what it is. I think that Joker was always that type of character. Like, I think that Joker was the type of character that would tattoo damaged on his face one day and then cut scars into his mouth and paint over his face the next day. I think that was not always how that Joker looked like, and that was just like a temporary thing. We don't even know if those were permanent tattoos. That could have just been like a temporary thing. I don't think like they're changing the vision of
don't think those were
and
temporary.
the long hair thing. I think is interesting that you mentioned that, because the long hair, we don't see that at all in the comics, but Jack had long hair. Heath Ledger had long hair. Joaquin Phoenix had long hair. I was combining their names into each other for a second.
Heath.
And we did see all of them. They had long hair. So I just think that's something that's interesting, because he doesn't really have that long, greasy hair in the comic books. But we've seen pretty much 3 Jokers and now 4 that have it in live action. So I think it's interesting.
Right.
So, and again, that just leans into my unexcitement. So I want to get on to one of the other stories in there, but just because I said if he clarified it, I'd address it. Chris, in terms of talking about Oh, they're gone. In terms of talking about the nomination, I purposely chose not to bring the Golden Globes up this week because I think the Golden Globes are a Citizen Award show that don't mean shit. And quite frankly, the Screen Actors Guild Awards nominations came out after I put the write-up together. If anything, I'll talk about those next week. But if Jared, I haven't seen The Little Things. I plan on watching it someday soon, and I'll go to you in a second, actually, since you've seen it.
Yeah.
One of the few things I've heard about that film is its saving grace is its performances, specifically from its three leads in Denzel, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. So if Leto got nominated, again, this year was a little weak on films, a little weak on studios having the budget to push for certain films. Maybe they needed a slot to film. Maybe he's brilliant in the film and he actually earned the nomination. I can't say one way or the other because I haven't seen it. When I do, I can have an opinion. Matt, you have seen The Little Things. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's fucking dog shit. The movie sucks. It's terrible. Denzel, he's fine in a movie. Like he's Denzel. He's done a lot better performances, which I mean, I don't think he really earned a nomination, whether it's for the Globes, the SAG, the Oscars, whatever. He hasn't earned it to me.
Denzel or Leto? Leto's
Denzel
nominated.
Denzel. I didn't think he was great. Rami Malek was miscasted big time. The only thing really in that movie that was really good to great was Jared Leto's performance. That was the one thing when he was on screen that kept me somewhat intrigued with what was going on with him. Sad enough, the movie's payoff in the end is awful. So you go on this shitty journey in the movie with a really good performance, which I think he earned a nomination. He'll get I mean, I don't know if he'll get an Oscar nomination. I think he deserves it.
Okay.
Because he is a really good actor. But you go through this whole shitty like journey and whatnot, and then the band. There's no good payoff. It just kind of it's just like, really, we're gonna end that way? Okay. And you can tell this movie, I believe, was actually written in the 90s. So you could tell why they never made it.
It's like a 7.
So I was gonna say, and I'll pull
70s
it up,
or whatever.
No. So I'll pull it up in a second to get all the names right.
Yeah. In The Little Things or just the nominations?
Vamp for me for a second, will you?
Okay, yeah. So here's what I want to know is where is Bad Boys for Life? Like, has that been
nowhere to be found?
They earned a nomination.
Or no?
There was better movies.
Ridiculous.
There was a lot better movies.
So
better movies that were shown in cinema.
So this was the
they're not doing cinema this year.
John Lee Hancock wrote the screenplay originally in 1993 with Steven Spielberg attached to direct. Spielberg ended up passing for other projects because he felt the final draft was too dark. Other directors over the time would be attached, including Clint Eastwood, Warren Beatty, and Danny DeVito, before Hancock finally decided to take the screenplay that had been sitting around for 20 years and direct it himself.
So was it too dark, would you say?
I mean, it's dark, but that wasn't the problem with the movie. I mean,
it might have been too dark for Spielberg.
I mean, The Dark Knight is it's about Dark Knight, but it has the R rating attached to it.
But the thing with The Dark Knight, the crime isn't that dark. Were you disturbed at any point during this movie?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that's what I was more looking for.
So anyways, but yeah, so moving on from that, but yeah, so if anything, if there's space next week, I'll bring up the Screen Actor Guild Award, just because you put another comment, I'll just follow up on it. Don't take anything stock. If Delroy Lindo isn't nominated, it's probably not the awards, it's the Academy and who they're pushing for. Yeah. You have to remember, Netflix can only pay.
Isn't going to be nominated either, currently. So
Netflix can only pay to push so many films, and they can only pay to push so many performances. At least from my opinion, Viola Davis deserves to be pushed for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and Chadwick gave 2 Oscar-worthy performances, and I think if they're going to pick one from The Five Bloods to push, they're going to push for Chadwick because of the posthumous honor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if we were going to say great things about Octavia Spencer, I watched the original Spider-Man earlier this week, and she's in that, and she tells Peter Parker to go away.
She is in that movie. With that being said, I haven't seen Game of Thrones. but I looked at Ramin Djawadi's compositional work, and I think he's a good composer. So good for Game of Thrones fans that he gets to come back. I think the theme song's really cool.
Yep.
I like
I think
the
the best
cover
thing that
somebody
he
did where
does-
they just sing Peter Dinklage over and over
Yeah.
again. So
The best thing he does is that he has themes within themes. So one thing that I like about like something that the Arrowverse shows are really good at is that every single character has their own theme. Like you hear theme music and you see like the character come into frame. Like Supergirl has a theme, you hear a theme, there she is. Superman has a theme, you hear a theme, there she is. One thing he did really good with Game of Thrones is that each house had their own theme. So whenever like they were gonna go into a storyline featuring something, they'd get some of these wide shots, and you'd get in your head like, okay, who are they showing? And then you'd hear like the theme. It's like, okay, this is a Stark storyline. Okay, this is a Targaryen storyline. Okay, this is a Lannister storyline. He did a lot of good stuff with that, and not just good stuff with like the composition of the different themes for the different houses. He had a lot of good lyrical stuff too. Like they joke about the Ed Sheeran episode, but like he
I
composed
heard the song was really good.
and put the words to. So there's a lot of good music that came out of Game of Thrones. We mentioned he did the first Iron Man score, that dun 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 dun. I prefer Iron Man 3, but I love that Iron Man 1 score. It's good stuff. So he's a great composer, and I can't wait for this Game of Thrones series. I was really on a Game of Thrones high when it ended. I perfectly fine with what they did with that show. So give me more, please. House of the Dragon, mwah. Dragon's great.
And then I was gonna say just to briefly touch on the other two myself, and then you guys can go into where you want to go into with it. 6 Resident Evil films exist, and they fucking suck. I thought this one might have had a shot at being good, and then the guy who made 47 Meters Down got brought in. And at that moment, I went, okay, maybe it'll be better, slightly better than Paul.
Chomp chomp.
Both films were developed the first film was made with direct to video in mind, and on a whim the studio was like, we have the money, let's put it in theaters, and it happened to do well, so it got a sequel. But the movie, it's not terrible, but it certainly feels like a movie that could have gone straight to Netflix. If
it's not as good as The Meg by any means.
I've never seen The Meg, so I can't
compare. My god, watch it. It's good.
So I can't compare. But I was not a huge. I think it's fine, but it's not a name that instills confidence. I think this franchise needed a name that instilled confidence, and that background is not something that instills confidence in me.
Well, if we're going to compare, if we're going by size, The Meg was definitely bigger than 47 meters.
Oh, it was for sure. I don't hate the cast they have in place. Like, I know the cast is bigger, but like those 5 names, Robbie Amell, sure, he's been decent.
He was Firestorm on the Arrowverse. Good actor.
Never seen it, but I've seen him in other things, and I think he's fine. Kaya Scodelario. She was in Crawl last year. She was in the Maze Runner films. She was in that 5th Shitty Pirates film, but she wasn't the worst part of it. So,
okay. It wasn't as bad as the 4th one.
No.
The 4th one's bad.
It had Jared and Orlando Bloom in it for a little bit, and that redeemed it. It kept me interested for it.
They're both pretty bad. But
4th one, I just wasn't interested in. Lost it.
But like I think she was good in the Maze Runner films, so she could be good here. Avon Jogia, I thought the only thing I think of that he was in recently was Zombieland 2. I really liked him in that film.
I loved that movie.
Hannah John Kamen, obviously from Ant-Man and the Wasp, among other things, and she was also in Ready Player One. I think she's done well in big budget films.
Ghost, right? Yeah, she was Ghost, and she was
Mendelsohn's assistant.
That show that Devin made me watch once.
Killjoys.
Killjoys. Yeah, it was one of those awful sci-fi shows. She was on it, but she was it was with Shawn Ashmore of all people, or Aaron Ashmore, one of the Ashmores.
Sure.
But yeah, she's good. I love her. She's very interesting presence. Every time she's cast in something, I'm excited.
Yeah, and then Neil McDonough's great and everything. So like as a lead 5, and they're fine. It's
Star Trek First Contact.
Is he in that?
He is in that. He is killed by one of the Borg. He is Lieutenant Hawk. in Star Trek First Contact. He
Sure.
is killed, assimilated,
On the
I'm sorry,
freezer dish.
by one of the Borg when they are trying to separate the deflector dish from the Enterprise so that the Borg cannot create their big headquarters on it. Star Trek First Contact, directed by Jonathan Frakes, greatest Star Trek movie ever made. Watch.
And does anybody give a shit about triplets still?
No.
The fact that that's still in development is just like, that's why I put it. It's just kind of funny that it's
Yeah.
still
Please
in
don't do
development.
Amend the Constitution so that Arnold Schwarzenegger can run for president and he doesn't have to make this movie. Or not. Whatever
I zoned out and missed what you said partially.
I'm done with celebrities being president.
I thought you were offended by my proposition.
Honestly, I just zoned out slightly. I didn't hear everything you said. You can repeat it if you'd like.
No, I said amend the Constitution so that he's allowed to run for president so that he doesn't have to make this movie. Like, that's how little I care about it.
Who, Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
I mean,
Or DeVito, either one.
it can't be that.
Amend the Constitution so that people under 5 feet can run for president. That was a low blow. I'm sorry, Danny DeVito. We love you here. Remember that episode of Friends where he was a stripper?
I do. That's a great episode.
When he was the penguin?
I do remember that too.
Yeah. Remember when his dad was Pee Wee Herman?
I still think his greatest role is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was in the Penguin. I haven't seen that show, but I think.
But Danny DeVito is a national treasure. That's the only part of that story that matters.
Jumanji too.
So let's.
Suicide is cool, kids.
He is in Jumanji.
Jumanji.
What'd you say?
What, me or Nikki?
You.
Oh, I hope I get the quote right from Sunny in Philadelphia. Suicide is cool, kids. Or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll never get the image of a half-naked DeVito sharing a couch bed with Charlie Day out of my...
Yeah.
Remember when
or
he was
him like all covered in peanut butter or whatever.
Oh, when it's like wiggling around. I was like, oh.
there was that episode of Friends where he was stripping at Phoebe's bachelor party. Phoebe was going to marry Paul Rudd, and they had a bachelor party, and he was the stripper.
Yeah, he's one of the highlights of that final season. It's a rough season.
Paul Rudd, everybody. Paul Rudd.
Okay, bachelor party or bachelorette party?
Bachelor, I don't know.
Paul Rudd was not watching Danny DeVito.
Bachelor is for guys. Bachelorette is for women.
You.
No, so with that, so do we wanna do this final discussion point and then wrap it up?
What is it?
Do you want me to do it? I sent you the.
Well, no, tell me what it is, and I'll tell you if I want to do it or not.
It was the Marvel thing, the other Marvel thing.
Oh yeah, do it. Marvel's good.
Okay.
Lasers and stuff.
I thought I'd try something different when putting the stories together. So this week we're doing kind of a discussion piece, and that's what we'll end the show on. So while I was doing my research for the different stories this week, I came across an article on a news website called Cinema Blend. Now, I use a lot of different websites to composite my stories together. I check different sites to check different news.
Sounds like a sweet dessert or breakfast food.
But one of the
coffee.
Damn it. So one of the main ones I use is Cinema Blend. And this week they posted kind of an opinion piece on if there is truth to the rumor that Chris Evans has signed a 2-picture deal with Marvel. How could he return, or in what way would they use him? And in this article, they pitched 5 different ways that they kind of came up with as to how he could return. And I wanted to kind of bring these here and then kind of have a brief discussion on what we thought, if it's even a good idea, and do any of these ideas sound good? So the first of the 5 ideas they pitched is something that would have already had to have been filmed, but they said one of the projects he could be in is in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier as Old Man Steve, in a small part that was already filmed in secret. Now, obviously, we established at the end of Endgame that he passes the torch is the turn, but pass the shield, really. And so it's possible that maybe he cameos as Old Man Steve in Falcon and Winter Soldier, further cementing and establishing the passing of that torch. Another theory they put out was he could appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madmen as a multiverse entrant. And they said he could appear as a number of things depending on how crazy this film gets with the multiverse, either being a return of Steve Rogers in general, maybe an evil Steve, or even go further out there and bring him in as Johnny Storm returning from the Fantastic Four. The third part they pitched was for him to appear in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania due to the time travel connections, either as an old Steve giving advice or as a younger one encountered in some sort of time travel adventure. The fourth option they gave was in the show Secret Invasion as a Skrull disguised as Steve Rogers. And the fifth is in a brief pitch they gave of an unannounced spin-off series, either the fan favorite concept of him returning the stones, or they said even maybe a rom-com style show with Steve and Peggy could work on the heels of fans seemingly enjoying the refreshing sitcom ideas that WandaVision are running with. Now, obviously, this is an opinion piece. It's all conjecture. None of it is confirmed. But I think it does lead to an interesting discussion point that we've talked about of specifically for me, where I've said, the multiverse is something that definitely worries me. And I hate the idea of them getting rid of characters just to bring them back later. So I do think it's an interesting discussion piece of if my worst nightmare turns out to be true and Chris, I don't want to do Marvel again, I want to do my own thing in direct films, Evans is returning to the MCU. What could he be doing?
Yeah.
I would prefer Chris Evans to be Johnny Storm, because at this point, with how Endgame ended, unlike with Charles Xavier, Hugh Jackman as Logan and whatnot, based on the time that those movies took place, it ends perfectly for that. And as far as we know, Doctor Strange is moving forward. So if we just bring him back in Falcon the Winter Soldier, which if he comes back in Falcon the Winter Soldier as Old Man Steve, okay, whatever. I would prefer that not to happen, but I wouldn't be as upset as if the multiverse brought back Steve Rogers, like young Steve Rogers. So Old Man I'd be fine with, but I would prefer the Johnny Storm thing because one, my theory I said 7 months ago is proving to be true, and two, it feels like they're going. It feels like they're going crazy with Doctor Strange anyway. So maybe a minute scene with him or whatever. Let's say they're traveling, through the multiverse or whatever, and it may be on the side we see him, but it's like a completely new scene. It's him older as Johnny Storm, something like that. I'm not saying like bring him in and he just has like 20 to 30 minutes, just like a minute or two, which I think that's how they're going to do it anyway with a lot of these characters.
You know that the way Marvel writes their contracts, those do count. There's the infamous story of they had to re-sign him for a one-film deal for Endgame because they actually used up a slot on Thor: The Dark World for his brief walkthrough cameo.
Oh, I thought it was because of Spider-Man, but that was so it was different.
Here's my question. Speaking of contracts and whatnot,
Devin, I'll go to you next.
How many movies was Chris Evans signed on for Johnny Storm?
Because they absorbed those, didn't they?
Because now they have those contracts, so they might actually already have a contract with him for maybe a potential third Fantastic Four. Because the credit scene actually.
So here's the thing with that is, I believe there was talk at the time of that film was released that they could do a third film, but we also have to remember this was back in the early 2000s. Long holding deals like what we have now weren't as prevalent. A lot of the times they did film to film contracts. So in the event that the film failed, they may not have tied them down to a 3-picture deal. Now there is a chance that maybe they did a 1 and then a 2-er and never used the third. Maybe that still exists. I find it hard to believe. I feel like they may have just transferred it to another film if they did have him on a multi-deal, but you're right. If somehow that deal still exists where he had a 1-er picture deal and they never used it, they do own the rights to that contract.
I do think there was a third one planned because of the end credits scene.
Oh yeah, there was.
They did plan a third one. They stopped because of the failure.
There was even going to be a Silver Surfer spin-off series.
Yeah. So sorry, Devin. Go ahead.
All right.
starring Doug Jones. Anyway, what if from here on out, instead of Stan Lee cameos, if we have Steve Rogers cameos?
Old Man Steve cameos.
Okay. Maybe.
That I would
Just
be fine
Evans
with
in
that.
general.
Just
I think
fun
Damon
little
might
cameos.
be replacing Chris Evans or Stan Lee. Like Matt Damon's just going to be everywhere.
Oh, or yeah, you could put Matt Damon in all the cameos.
But okay,
I think Kevin Feige would work. I feel like he's the
Well-
natural successor.
Feige or Joe Russo. Joe Russo's already kind of started doing it.
True.
Been 3 people so far, but I think because I have the one that I want the most. The one I want the most is Steve Rogers, World War II. It's just kind of a standalone World War II movie
Howling Commander.
that. Or no, yeah, the Howling Commandos are there
the
too.
montage.
You get Neil McDonough, you get a Bucky, but like during the montage sequence, but you have it connect to something in the future. You don't have to have it connect to characters in the future. Like you don't have to have anything in the movie specifically tie in, just something that they're raiding a Hydra base
grandfather?
and they're raiding a Hydra base and they find some sort of like magical, mystical space artifact. And then that has to come in to play with like the current Avengers, something that Steve set into motion earlier on.
And 084
but
from back then.
Isn't necessarily there to see it through. But what I think is more likely to happen is that you have Steve Rogers, you see him, it's Captain America's back, and then he's revealed either to be a Skrull or a Hydra clone or some sort of Captain Hydra. I think they may do like a bait and switch. I'd prefer them go the World War II standalone movie route, but I think they're more likely to do, it's Cap, but he's evil.
So like the Hydra Cap.
Yeah, Hydra Captain Hydra or Skrull Hydra.
Right. I mean, maybe.
I wouldn't
Kinda-
like it, but I think they're more likely to do it.
As somebody who hates the living, breathing concept of Chris Evans coming back,
At least it's not multiverse.
yeah. All right. As somebody who hates this idea, again, and we've had this talk on the show before. I know that for a fact. In my opinion, removing characters on a seemingly permanent basis just to bring them back, I think it damages the reputation of writing within a universe. I think it removes stakes. I know it's a trope in comics, but that doesn't mean I can't hate it. I don't think it's something that should be translated into film. And I hate it on all fronts. I hate it when DC did it.
I love it everywhere.
I just think it depends how they pull it off.
They pull it off because of me, because I love it.
To some extent, I think some of it works. But I just hate that we live in a universe where, if they keep bringing characters back, then it's like the only characters who can permanently die are like Thor's mom and Rebecca Hall in Iron Man 3. Like they're the only characters that can stay dead.
It's ironic that you say that though, because I think WandaVision, I think WandaVision is really dealing with that. Because especially this last episode with the whole entire dog thing,
right?
Dead is dead. Her children she created, that's new life. But Vision could be dead. And I don't remember anybody in the MCU ever being just definitively dead and then that person being resurrected. Gamora, it's from another timeline.
Like, I hate that. I hate that they do that.
There's other instances, but dead is dead. So that person is dead. I think that is something that they are going to be firmly establishing in this season of WandaVision.
And that's what we've talked about, right? Like, I preemptively, now again, execution, writing, whatever, they can make good content, but I hate that we're getting a Loki show because I thought they wrote him a perfect ending, and I think it's the biggest fucking, it's one of my least favorite moments in Endgame. I don't like Endgame. Biggest cop out to just, we happen to time travel here, and he happened to get away with it, and it happened to work out that Loki's still alive.
Shucks.
I hate that they brought Gamora back. I thought that was a beautiful moment in Infinity War that is ruined because they worked a loop around to get it back in. Now, that doesn't mean that the future can't be done right. Loki could be a quality show, and they could service Gamora well in the third Guardians of the Galaxy film. That doesn't mean I have to like the concept that they're going with it.
Yeah.
I think it's terrible.
Because that's a thing where another controversial movie, the Rey Skywalker thing. every time I heard Rey Skywalker and like people pitching that idea, like, oh, she's gonna take on the name Skywalker, she's gonna adopt the name Skywalker, she's one of the. I hated that. Like that was one of those things where I would cringe when I heard that. It was as stupid to me as the Han Solo getting his name from the stupid Imperial officer. But when that happened in the movie, where it's like, what's your name, Rey? Rey who? God damn it, J.J. Abrams, it worked for me. So you could have the worst idea possible
That solid
in concept.
minute of silence.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, the solid minute of silence where she could have said Ray Gobblestein or anything else. But it's just one of those things that you could hear a concept and hate it, but if they do it right, you'll love it.
Yeah, and on some level, I agree with you there. But like Paul Bettany has said as much in interviews that this is the last thing on his contract. This is his last thing in the MCU.
Yeah.
So he's going to die again.
I don't want.
I don't think he's dead.
I don't want him to come back after this.
No.
Like I can live with it for this show.
Yeah.
Simply because
it's not him.
It's like simply because it's all in her. It's her head. It's her imagination. It's somebody else. Whatever the ruse is. But if at the end of the show they just pop out and it's like, oh well, shit, guess Vision's back to life. Help us.
I don't think there's any way this ends well.
He's going to be the one thing that can't leave the bubble.
He's going to be the one thing.
Yeah, which I am perfectly okay with because I think.
What about Jarvis? Would you hate it if he came back as Jarvis? Like, what if the one thing they were able to salvage from the Vision was Jarvis?
Well, didn't they establish that Jarvis is no more?
Yeah.
Well, it was a separate entity that evolved into Vision. But what I'm saying is, if like that was the only thing, like say if you take the stone away, there's still what if
what normal? It depends on it. I guess
how they do it.
I wouldn't.
It depends on the Like I don't.
Because I don't like the Tony Stark AI thing that people have been suggesting. That
Spider-Man already has Jennifer Connelly as his AI. He doesn't.
And his wife.
He doesn't need a Jarvis. I don't know under what context.
Ironheart, maybe.
Maybe.
Brody.
But Jarvis is so.
The fact that we're stretching for an answer, in my opinion, like we're stretching to come up with a reasonable explanation.
I just want Paul Bettany.
It's enough to say they don't need to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can make it work with Ironheart, maybe. But Jarvis is like Jarvis goes with Iron Man.
Jarvis is gone.
It's like Iron Man and Jarvis are just so like. I don't know. It's like you can't have Iron Man without Jarvis. It almost seems like
if Jarvis was still around, like they establish in Age of Ultron that Jarvis is completely gone. He is completely assimilated into what Vision.
You could have him on a USB flash drive, like Jarvis.
Then why wouldn't he use them in Age of Ultron?
For confusion's sake, they were on comms.
But no, like after Age of Ultron, why wouldn't Tony put that into his system?
Because he would be on comms with him. But like that's I think that's the in-universe explanation because he's going through his little floppy.
No, I just don't think
the name pops up even. The name pops up for who's talking to Tony when he's wearing an Iron Man suit.
Yeah,
no, I know that. It's just
that's how it would separate it.
It would be weird.
The comms is a whole nother issue. Let's not go there. That's my biggest.
If you watch the first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they explain that the comms are through their teeth. So that's why you don't see it near.
That is.
I think that's.
But you see, like
the whole Avengers game today, and there's a line in there where they say the comm is so small that you can't even see it.
You literally see Cap doing this, like to his ear, trying to talk when there's no earpiece in there.
And there's no fuck off.
So small you can't even see it.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't.
No, this is making my blood rise worse than fucking multiverses.
Okay, well then maybe we should wrap the show up before Aaron Volcano explodes.
No, multiverse. I'll say this: if they were doing it all in one movie, I would be like, well, yeah, how? But I think they're handling it smart because it's starting with WandaVision, I believe, and then it will carry to Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. So it's not like they're just throwing it into one thing. They're going to slowly bring it in.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's where I'm like.
I was going to say, but before we wrap, just to answer the initial discussion I put out there, I hate the idea of Chris Evans coming back. We talked about that. We established that.
We went back to WandaVision. We went
right back.
I hate that idea. Yeah. If it's true that he's coming back in some capacity As somebody who doesn't hate it, I don't have my own as somebody who hates it, I don't have my own creative idea. The only two out of what Cinema Blend suggested that work for me
Oh, thank you for the idea for cinnamon rolls.
are I would be okay if he was in Falcon and Winter Soldier briefly as just another addition to a send-off. I could live with that.
Right.
And if he came back for Secret Invasion, but it was established right away, this is a Skrull, this is a villain, this is a character that's trying to use his image to assimilate to the people, and everyone's aware of it. I don't want to deal with this plot line of, oh my god, is Steve back? And then he turns out to be a Skrull. Like, no, let's just, this is the image he's using to mess with the people, but the heroes of the show know what's up. Like, that's the only way I'm accepting it. Any other idea to me just sounds horrible because, again, I think Rogers is a character who got a great end that doesn't need to be fucked with.
Right.
And I think bringing him back in any other capacity to do anything more than send off his two best friends again or something that's clearly not Rogers it is an insult to the character, honestly. It is.
Okay.
And with that, what were you saying?
I'm sleepy.
And with that, guys, we'll go ahead and close out the show. Nikki, Matt, anything you guys want to plug quickly before we close out?
I mean, just watch the shows I'm on. You know, that's all that matters, right? No, like you watch, you know, more After Dark. You know, watch Inside the Horseshoe, which I'm planning on making it more weekly. It depends if my internet or personal things get in the way, of course. But then also check out Aaron's show, Schmo Bates, or Schmo Talks. That's a different show. Free plug for them. But do that, and then I have my other channel, which I'll be uploading more content on.
.com.
It's on is it called Action? I think that's their thing. So there you go. You guys got a free shout out. I have my personal channel, going to be uploading more soon. So yeah.
Yeah. Nikki, anything to plug? Devin?
I'd love to do more stuff. I just need people to plan it for me. I'm like if I'm told to go somewhere like at a certain time, I'll be there. But if I'm told like, hey, do not lean your feet on my brand new computer, mister. He just did that. He just leaned his feet on that computer that I slaved over. And like, my God, man, I would not have done that to yours. I'm just thrown off completely by what just happened here, guys. I'll try to have new shows as long as Devin doesn't use my computer as a footrest. I've got this really cool lightsaber, and I think I'm gonna kill myself with it, like just on accident, not real. Laser. But these look cool, guys. Ultra Sabers. You want one of these? I don't get sponsored by them, but they're cool.
Sponsored.
And you guys can find me on other shows over TMG. Like Matt said, please be sure to check out the other shows we have airing. We have we have Inside the Horseshoe. Suplex City Chats is currently on a bit of a hiatus, but hopefully it'll be back sooner than later. So if you're wrestling fans, check that out. Check out the Supernova Show. Check out Schmo Talks. A new episode will not be going up this week. But we had 4 episodes go up last week. So if you haven't checked those out, be sure to check them out. And obviously our interview with Kaiser, we got that super secret, super special interview. I found this out afterwards. We technically broke news in it. So if you want to know what that news is, go check it out. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching. This has been a fun show. On behalf of everyone here at TMG Entertainment, my name is Aaron Knoll. We will see you guys next week.